We're back in your podcast feeds to talk this year's Oscar nominees. Plus, be sure to stick around for an exciting announcement about Season 3, here on You're Missing Out.
Remember last year when the motion picture Coda won Best Picture? When that happened?
Coda somehow winning meant that, like, movies don't exist anymore?
No, but it was more the fact that, like, I think it was this weird thing of, I remember
Also
last year's
spoilers
episode,
for the game in the game.
well, that one's fine. But like last year, you and I were talking about Coda as a Best Picture nominee and kind of going, it's fine, it's cute, it deserves its nomination. And like a lot of times people talk about with certain movies where they go, actually, if it won Best Picture, that would be the worst thing for it. Coda is living proof of that in terms of like, we were so defensive of Coda's nomination, and now that it won, it's like, okay, guys, what are we doing here? Especially because
it's a nice little movie. Like, relax. Like,
yeah, but
nobody
also, like,
cares.
But also, like, that's not a Best Picture winner.
It's not. It's not. It should have won. But also, people need to calm down.
I think the thing that hurt it, though, to me, I mean, at least watching the ceremony, was the fact that if you remember, like, they were coming out and making jokes, the hosts were coming out and making jokes bagging on most of the movies. Talking about how long and confusing Power of the Dog was, right? And, like, taking pot shots at West Side Story and King Richard and all the other movies. And then the only thing they said about Coda was Amy Schumer looking at the cast of Coda and signing, I loved Coda. And it was just like, it felt like, I think Coda winning felt like when Oliver won in 1968. And it was just like, oh, whoa, what the fuck was In the Heat of the Night? We can't do that again. No, what about a nice movie for nice people? What if everybody was nice? And thankfully, the What If Everybody Was Nice Brigade definitely doesn't have a film to rally behind this year. Anyway, everybody, thank you, everybody. Welcome to our latest Oscar special.
Fuck you for making me do this again.
We're so excited to be back on your podcast feeds. We've been busy recording Season 3, which has not released yet. Most times on You're Missing Out, we are talking about the films inducted in the National Film Registry, films that are part of the cinematic canon that are considered by scholars to be great classic films. But once a year, we get to talk about the films that the Academy this very year considers great and important films. We get to look at them. We're going to look at them, talk about all the Best Picture nominees. We're going to give our rankings, talk about whether any of these films potentially have a future in that National Film Registry, in that canon, which ones maybe might not stand the test of time. Most times when we do the show, we are specifically talking about why these films matter and why they have value. For this, because we're taking a more contemporary stance, we're not always going to be super positive on the films. We have
we're not.
We have pictures that are nominated that we like a lot. We have pictures that are nominated that we don't much care for. Obviously, if you have a different opinion, we're not attacking you. We're not attacking anybody. This is just us saying how we feel about these titles.
Tom is, to be clear. Tom is 100% attacking you.
No, I absolutely hate you if you like some of these movies.
With that being said, if that's not your bag, stick around, keep us on your feet. We're going to be back to talking about so many exciting classic canonical films like Chinatown, I Am a Fugitive from a Chain Gang, 2001: A Space Odyssey. We got a lot of fun stuff coming up. But today we were talking about the films nominated for the 95th Academy Awards. The way this is going to work is we are going to go through every Best Picture nominee in alphabetical order. Tom and I are going to give our thoughts. Then we'll tell you where we rank those nominees on a scale of 1 to 10. And then we're going to go through all the other categories. I've watched all the nominated films. Tom's watched a fair number of the other nominees. So we're going to talk about how we feel about those categories. Fair warning, I think we're going to talk spoilers in some cases for the Best Picture nominees. So be aware that we will try and avoid spoilers for anything that isn't one of the Best Picture nominees, so we know not everybody gets to those. But without further ado, Kyle, what do we want to start talking about?
Let's start with All Quiet on the Western Front.
All Quiet on the Western Front. So folks may know we have a little more investment in this one because we actually covered the original adaptation of All Quiet on the Western Front, itself an Oscar winner for Best Picture. We covered that in our second season with Vice Victus. You can go back and check out us talking about that film before this new one came out. and I think it's fair to say we're all big fans of the original film. This current All Quiet on the Western Front is interesting for me because it's one of those films that I felt a certain fondness for it when I watched it, and in the time since I watched it, my feelings toward it have diminished a bit. It's definitely a spectacle, right? It's definitely, we talked about with the original film and the novel, but with the original film adapting the novel, how kind of low key the original All Quiet on the Western Front was, and how it really it kept itself low key, it kept itself more reserved, so that when the acts of violence and brutality happened, like the hands hanging off the barbed wire, it was more shocking. This film does not go that direction. It goes the exact opposite direction. From like minute one, it has this overbearing electric guitar bum, 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 score. So right away, like they're going a different approach on this. What I was not prepared for was its decisions to depart from the source material's plot and overall point of view to the degree where by the time you reach the end of this movie, it's kind of All Quiet on the Western Front in name only. I was okay with it when I saw it, but in the time since, I just kind of felt like I don't know if it necessarily did anything that interesting. Like I watched it because it's a new All Quiet on the Western Front. And I watched it. I was fine with having watched it, but it just feels like there are certain films, and particularly like when we're talking about the Oscar-nominated war films, there are certain ones that you look at and go, "Oh wow, this actually did something very interesting, and I understand why this is being recognized." And there are others you look at and go, "Seems like they filmed a pretty violent war, and told us that war is bad, and I'm not sure it's necessarily that effective." We often quote that line about you can't make a true anti-war film because war is so viscerally thrilling. I think the original film does a very good job of being an anti-war film. I don't think this one has that does that nearly as well. I think it's very violent and very brutal and very affecting, but I don't know. I question a lot of the choices with it, and I do think it's one of those ones that I think it's interesting that got all the nominations and the recognition that it did. I'm a little perplexed by it. In terms of I think it's fine. I think it's solid for a Netflix adaptation of All Quiet that goes in a different direction, but I enjoyed watching it when I saw it, and then it's kind of diminished for me a lot in the time since, and I'm starting to just see the bigger picture and not necessarily loving where it went. So, yeah, All Quiet on the Western Front.
I really liked it. I don't necessarily like the changes that they made, but the changes they made aren't that big. The stuff that is from the novel is pretty much from the novel. Really, it's only the Daniel Bruhl stuff that is not from the book, and yeah, it's not good. Doesn't need to be in at all. But I don't think it diminishes what the story's trying to do at all. I don't think it strays at all. I think it still has the same point and lands at the same place. It just tries to broaden it a little bit, which is all right, whatever, great, doesn't matter. I do wish we had more time with them in their little German town before they go off to the war. I think that's really the only that's the real I think that's the real negative of the movie. I think it is so viscerally unpleasant and effective by shooting it like a horror movie where it's just gross and unpleasant and dirty and stinky, and it gets to what the original couldn't do, which is, if you're gonna remake an older movie, do what the older movie couldn't do, and this does that. For all the, we can praise the original all we want, and we did. Check out last season's episode. It only did that because it couldn't do what this movie did. So like, I'm glad it exists. It feels like somebody watched 1917 and said, "Hold my beer." Because at least it doesn't have 1917's bullshit gimmick that it breaks halfway through. It's at least like, okay, here's a regular old movie. We're not playing any bullshit games with you. And yeah, I think it's one of the best war movies of recent memory. It's just a shame, not a shame, but I thought we were past the mimicking the Saving Private Ryan style war movie, because we got a lot of those after Saving Private Ryan, and the best war movie since Saving Private Ryan was Dunkirk, because it wasn't trying to be Saving Private Ryan. It found its own way to tell a tense, unpleasant, unbearably just gut-wrenching story about war without the blood and the guts. But yeah, I think this is a really good movie. I think you take the Daniel Bruhl stuff out and the movie's like 5% better. But you're just still gonna be dealing with the fact that you don't have the moments of calm before the war. It gets too quick to thrusting you into it, but I think that worked out just fine. So I'm pretty okay with this movie being here for the most part.
Next up, we have Avatar: The Way of Water.
All right, so this is a stance that I didn't think I would have for the last 14 years of my life. But I am Pandora pilled. This movie rules. James Cameron solidifies himself yet again as the king of the blockbuster and the king of the sequel. Really, I don't think there's anybody that's been as good at whether it's his own story or coming onto someone else's story, like he did on Aliens or with Terminator 2, his own thing, and doing it again with Avatar 2, just looking at the world that he's got, looking at the characters and saying, how do I expand this? How do I make this more interesting? We set up a lot. The first one was a lot of setup. Now we're going to get into the nitty gritty of it. And boy, howdy, does he fucking dive deep into the world of Pandora and make it actually interesting. You actually get an interesting main character. Jake Sully is actually interesting this time. And Sam Worthington does the Lord's work, honestly. He's fantastic in the role. You get more out of Quaritch, and Stephen Lang kills it with this expanded role of Quaritch. And I really love what they do with Quaritch and the hints at what we're going to get down the road with Quaritch and his journey. The kids are great, and that's not something I ever would have expected, because if there's been one consistent weak spot in James Cameron's filmography, it's he's bad with kids. Even if the writing of them and their placement in the story is good, Newt is annoying in Aliens. John Connor is annoying in Terminator 2. Eliza Dushku is kind of just there in True Lies, but it's another thing of just like, you couldn't have done this better. All right, I guess she's a 90 grunge girl with a boyfriend on a motorcycle. All right, Jim. But this time the kids are great. Actual kids playing them, and then also just Galaxy Brain Sigourney Weaver playing a 14-year-old alien girl who is her own daughter, that is maybe immaculately conceived. Hey, Jim, thank you for throwing this weirdness at me. This is exactly what I needed from an Alien sequel to make me, for an Avatar sequel to make me interested in more. And again, just, deepening the world with the Water Clan and the whales that that can speak and have emotions and are maybe the smartest beings in the universe, but also have a liquid in their brain that makes human aging not a thing. um, the action's great. Like, I mean, it's just like on every conceivable level, it is a step up from the first one, and you wouldn't have thought that the visuals could get better than 2009 because he spent so long making that, but Jesus Christ, the visuals in this movie are fucking insane, and they really enhance the story. Jim Cameron, he's the king of the world. He did it again. And as someone who liked but didn't love Avatar, I am as surprised as anybody that I like almost kind of straight up love this movie. And it's almost like a foregone conclusion it was going to get nominated, unless it was like straight up The Rise of Skywalker bad. But I'm glad it's nominated. Sci-fi represent. That's cool, man.
Yeah, so Avatar was one of those cases. The first Avatar came out when we were in college, right? We were in film school. And it got nominated for Best Picture the first year that there were 10 Best Picture nominees. And I remember it came out and it was so hyped. And Tom and I think, were both on the train of like, guys, what are we doing here? It was one of these cases where, like, it really was, to use internet parlance, it was like, it felt a little bit like gaslighting at certain points when I heard people talking about, like, no, but the story is so deep and moving. No, guys, can we just acknowledge, like, it's very cool visually, but the script does not hold up? But it was like, no, you don't understand. This is unimpeachable. This is flawless. And because of that, I feel like in the 14 years since we got that film, the backlash became, oh, nobody talks about Avatar, nobody cares about Avatar, it has no cultural relevance or anything like that. I think that movie blew up in a big way and then got a lot of backlash. What we now see looking at The Way of Water is Avatar was a great foundation for what Jim could do, right? I don't necessarily think the world building of the world of Pandora in the first Avatar is the most interesting thing. But the directions he takes it in this sequel are so engrossing. Like Tom, I am Pandora pilled, as he said, because this film really does take things into interesting directions. You know, introducing us to Payakan and the whales, and introducing us to the other clan, you know, the water people, and this whole Miles Quaritch in an Avatar clone thing, and all of that. Every part of that, everything Tom said, I fully agree with. I was totally sold on this film. In terms of the visuals, I will say the high frame rate hurts this film a bit. There are certain moments where it does feel like you're watching a video game. So I don't know if that was necessarily the smartest call, but when it's just being serene, you know, when Sigourney's character is swimming under the water, there's nothing like it. It's absolutely striking. So I'm all for its Best Picture nomination. In terms of, I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily in my personal 10 if I'm voting, but I'm all for it because I think Avatar: The Way of Water is a step above the original film in pretty much every conceivable way. So I'm glad for all its success. I'm fully on board for it.
I'll just say I didn't see it in high frame rate, so I didn't have any issues with that. But I don't think you're wrong. Just on a fundamental level, we both dealt with Gemini Man, so
Oh yeah, it definitely, yeah. Yeah.
We dealt with Gemini Man in different ways, but
yeah. Well, we were there together,
But it
and
was-
we
we were there together. One of us was in our seat the whole time. The other one had to step out multiple times.
we dug hole together.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Next on the list, the Banshees of Inisherin.
So I have a complicated relationship with Martin McDonagh, right? I really loved In Bruges when it came out, and was just so impressed with that film. Again, it came out like when I saw it senior year of high school, and so I had no familiarity with McDonagh beforehand. I was like, who the hell is this? I looked him up. I found Six Shooter, which was his short film. And I was like, this guy's really interesting. Like, this guy's got a great Irish literary energy. And then Seven Psychopaths came out, and I remember liking Seven Psychopaths, right? I do like Seven Psychopaths, but it is like a case of a bit of a sophomore slump compared to In Bruges, which is a fucking masterpiece. And then there's Three Billboards, which is a contentious film. I have no love for Three Billboards. I think it's a real misfire for McDonagh, and I think part of it is because he's trying to write for people he doesn't necessarily know. Banshees of Inisherin, when it started coming out and getting the buzz, I was a little, I kind of maybe soured on McDonagh. I wondered if he was maybe a one-hit wonder within Bruges, but then I finally got around to it, and I was just so entranced by it. I was so engaged with it. I think it's what he does best, right? It's what he does best in terms of there's a little kernel, and it just starts to spiral and spiral and spiral. I don't know if there is any screenwriter writing today who does Irish dialogue better than Martin McDonagh, right? I think that when In Bruges came out, I remember somebody saying like, "Oh, it's like UK Tarantino," and I don't know if that was the fairest comparison, but you do kind of feel like in the same way that people are like, "Oh man, you really want to say his dialogue? Do you really want to say McDonagh dialogue if you've got a brogue?" I was so won over this film. It's so well executed. I think the performances are very good. Do I think people are maybe for a while Twitter was real high on Barry Keoghan going, there goes that dream, where I'm like, all right, we can maybe relax a bit. Sure. For the most part, I think it's a well executed film that I think works if you know nothing about Irish history. It works on a whole nother level if you do. It's maybe the best performance of Brendan Gleeson's career. It's maybe the best performance of Colin Farrell's career, and really touches on a beautifully sad and funny vulnerability that I found really affecting. I think it's one of the top films this year in a different year. it would be a favorite for Best Picture. So it's a strong film, and I think will be well remembered.
Yeah, so I don't have a contentious history with Martin McDonagh. I think when I saw In Bruges, I fell in love with it. Great fucking movie. One of the hardest I've ever laughed is Ray Fiennes telling his wife, "You're an inanimate fucking object." Seven Psychopaths, like Mike, I liked it, but he was definitely biting off more than he could chew. It was definitely a weird meta trying to like break down storytelling and cinematic storytelling and shit. But there's funny bits, Christopher Walken's great in it. I love Three Billboards. I think it's a great movie. I think all the complaints about it are just abject bullshit that just completely miss the point of the movie and move the goalposts. But then he goes back across the pond and he's back in Ireland and he makes another masterpiece, another unimpeachable masterpiece. I feel like anybody's been in, whether it's a friendship or a relationship or just something with family, where it's just a little thing just spirals out of control and you don't even know like why this is happening. You're just like, wait, you're mad at me for this? Oh, come on, it's not this. And you just keep digging yourself a bigger hole. And the morality of things are weird because you should just stop trying to bother them, but you want to know why, and then they become. It's just, I don't know. Mixing it with the Irish history of the Civil War, that none of the characters know why it's happening. They just know it's happening and it's off in the distance. It's a very writerly stage play kind of conceit of history's happening and it's kind of being reflected metaphorically in your characters. Whatever. Sometimes it could suck, but it doesn't suck here because it's so subtle. And it's so weird that a movie that's so much about depression and really getting accurately the feeling of depression and despair could be this fucking funny. And a movie that could just casually drop that Barry Kagan's getting sexually abused by his father could be this funny. Colin Farrell has a donkey that he does not want outside of the house when he's sad. Yeah, this is probably Brendan Gleeson's best performance of his career. I would say it was Colin Farrell's best performance of his career, but it's not even the best of the year. He was the Penguin, and when you can play someone that accurately, where you believe that they would call into WFAN and say that the Mets fucking suck, you've done a good job. But it's a close second for Colin Farrell's 2022. Great performance. I am thrilled this was nominated. Almost worried that it was too smart and unique to be nominated, but I'm glad it's here. It's really high up on my top 2022 movies, so very happy this thing is in there.
Next on our list, Elvis.
For fuck's sake. Alright, so, of all the nominees this year, there are two movies that I think are abject dog shit. And this is one of them, but not the worst of the two, so buckle up, gang. My vitriol's only going to get worse from here. This movie fucking sucks. Baz Luhrmann couldn't tell a story if God himself ripped his head open and shoved like the scrolls that were burned down during like the ancient Greek wars into his head and said, "Now you're a writer. You can tell stories." And he would say, "But is there glitter?" And God would go, "Oh, for fuck's sake." I don't know what people are seeing in this movie. Tom Hanks as Fat Dracula he's like half telling the story, but then half of the time there is no narration, so you're just getting scenes from Elvis's point of view, even though this should just be a movie from apparently Colonel Parker's point of view. What if Colonel Parker sucked the blood of the innocent? That would definitely be a take I'd be interested in. And I don't know what people are saying when they say Orson Butler's good in this movie. He is not good in this movie. He is at the same level Rami Malek was in Bohemian Rhapsody, but instead of fake teeth, he has that dopey fucking accent, and it's not good. Like he's just like doing an imitation. You could see 100 Austin Butlers in Las Vegas right now. Jump on a plane, JetBlue. In the time it takes you to get to Vegas, you could have watched this movie, slit your wrists, and the doctors could have resuscitated you. It is obnoxious. It doesn't have a point of view. It straight face does the Walk Hard movie. Like, I thought this kind of movie was dead when Walk Hard eviscerated it, but it just does it. But because it's very glittery, everyone thought, "Oh wow, this is something fresh and new." But it isn't. It's bad. The only thing I can give this movie is I like that it has the point of view and the historical perspective to say Elvis wasn't racist. Colonel Parker was a racist. Colonel Parker made people think he was a racist, so the assholes in the South would buy his records. I like that it goes to great lengths to say he liked black music, he spent time in the black neighborhoods, he liked black magicians and wanted to elevate them, but he lived in a world where that was not allowed. That's all good. The rest of the movie, fucking crap. I can't believe this movie made the money it did. I can't believe it got nominated for an Oscar. Like Bohemian Rhapsody, only reason I'm still alive today is because at least it's enjoyable to listen to Elvis's music, and there's a lot of Elvis music in this. Elvis, great, awesome. Bye.
Before I speak, Tom, did you want to give Kyle an alt take where you say the words black musicians? Because you were so caught up in your vitriol that you said he liked black magicians and wanted to elevate them. So I actually really liked Elvis. It's a divisive film, and I totally get that. It makes decisions. I think that the difference between a divisive film like Elvis, that I'm really on the side of being in favor of, and a divisive film this year like Babylon, which I don't much care for, I don't think these two things are in the same boat, because I think that with what Baz Luhrmann is doing with Elvis, that's a movie that I look at that it's making very specific choices and very bold choices and taking big swings. And we can argue, and people can argue about whether or not those were the right choices to make, the way it, integrates hip hop music with Elvis's tracks to try and convey something. The speedy camera work, the quick editing, the Tom Parker narration, the strange voices, all of that. We can quibble about whether those are the right choices or not, but he makes those decisions and he executes those decisions well. Whereas something like a Babylon, that's a movie that people are calling divisive. It's not divisive because the thing is, like, to me, I look at something like that and I'm like, Chazelle bit off way more than he could chew. With Elvis, again, I think we can argue about whether or not those are the right calls. There are people, my partner, I went to see it. She did not care for the film because she wanted it to be a straightforward Elvis biopic. This movie has no interest in being a straightforward Elvis biopic. If you want that, there's a John Carpenter biopic that's pretty solid. This is Baz Luhrmann, as I put it, it's Baz Luhrmann playing with the iconography of Elvis in the same way that we would use the iconography of Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday, or George Washington, or any of these figures from American history, or Nathan Hale or Johnny Clem, or any of these characters that are part of our history that have now transcended into folklore. One of the interesting things is that there are figures, and we saw it this year and we'll talk about it with Marilyn Monroe as well. There are figures from the 20th century who have now transcended mere mortality and become folklore characters, right? The story of Elvis is a piece of folklore now, more than just reality. So he makes it larger than life because he's not telling the story of Elvis Aaron Presley. He's telling the story of Elvis Presley, the character, the folk figure, from the perspective, in a lot of cases, of his manager, Colonel Tom Parker, which is why I get that people don't like the Tom Hanks performance. I like what Tom Hanks is doing. I think it's interesting because it does kind of feel like how this warped, weird little man of Colonel Tom Parker would envision himself as the hero of the story. I like the idea of Tom Parker trying to redeem himself and ultimately showing why he failed this man. I think that Luhrmann makes a lot of interesting choices in this film. I really like Austin Butler's performance, as we'll get into more later. I think that the choices of how to tell the story visually to try and convey the mania and the hysteria of what Elvis produced in people reminds me of like what Ken Russell did with Listomania. It's tough when you're trying to show something from the past, try and convey to a modern audience like how this must have felt. And one of the things that Baz Luhrmann does throughout his career, to varying degrees of success, is always trying to take something from the past and make a modern audience go, well, this is how it felt then. Whether it's Romeo and Juliet or Moulin Rouge or anything like that, where he's trying to make you feel that level of energy. I think he pulled that off with Elvis. I find it a very engaging film, and I think that it does a lot to, while making him a folk hero, it does a lot to kind of humanize Elvis while not necessarily shying away from the fact that he was a weird guy, which is a thing that you kind of just have to roll with Elvis, is he was a weird guy plucked from obscurity, manipulated and tossed around in a lot of ways. And then when it all kind of came apart, he didn't really know what to do. So, I don't know. I think it's an interesting film. I had no idea if it was going to get nominated for Best Picture or not. Quite frankly, it was, again, it's a divisive film. I think it's it's interesting that it was. I will also say, while I like Elvis, in a stronger year, Elvis is not nominated for Best Picture. I will say that outright, that Elvis being in the Best Picture conversation is also indicative of what kind of movie year it is, or at least what kind of prestige movie year it is. You know, I know we can't necessarily, people get very mad whenever you say, like, this wasn't a great year for movies, because, like, well, I liked these. But in terms of, like, the prestige movies, the Oscar contender movies, like, I would love a year that was so strong that Elvis was not in the conversation for Best Picture, but it is, and that's the year we had. So I can roll with it.
Up next, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once.
Oh God, it's my turn to talk about Everything Everywhere All at Once. I have to go first. That means people will yell at me more. No, I'm kidding. I like Everything Everywhere All at Once. I really do. I do actually like it. I think what we have seen is people got real on board for this movie and real passionate about this movie, and will not sanction any criticism of it. And I get it. It's a really unique movie. It's a really enjoyable film. I mean, you know, I remember seeing the trailer a bunch and thinking, "Oh, this could be interesting." And then it was making all that money and it was getting all that praise, and we went to go see it and walked out really impressed by it. It wasn't like a 5-star masterpiece to me, because I do think that it does suffer from what the Daniels debut definitely suffered from, and what a lot of quirky indie movies suffer from, which is it has moments where it's just a little too cute for its own good, where it just dips a little too much into, like, oh, aren't we being so weird and quirky? You know, I don't know. There's certain points where it's like, did we necessarily have to have the fight scene of guys shoving things up their asses? Like, and I don't mean that in the way of, like, deeply conservative, like, ew, it's gross, but just like, do you really think that's being particularly transgressive? It just feels like a bunch of college kids giggling, right? Like, I remember when we were in college, a guy named his student film Dildo Party, and he thought it was the funniest thing in the world that he called it Dildo Party, and it's like, it's not a good gag. It's just dumb. There are certain moments in this film that I find this movie, like, 90% really emotional and engrossing, but there are certain moments that feel a little Dildo Party level. That all being said, I don't mean to sound down on this movie. I think the only reason that I'm starting out so down is this is what happens in award season when something suddenly becomes like the out and out over, praise to the moon frontrunner. You can't help but notice the little flaws along the way. This is a really impressive film. It's a really engaging film. Michelle Yeoh is fantastic. The whole cast is incredible in it. I think Michelle Yeoh is great. Stephanie Hsu is great. Ki Huy Kwan is absolutely deserves that Oscar. They're all terrific in it. It's a really clever script. It's it tells a very sweet and simple story while being so sprawling. I have absolutely no problem with this movie being something that is a definitive movie moment of the year and all of that. Um, I think some folks are maybe getting a little too swept up in its be nice energy. I think there's a whole contingent of folks who are so on the be nice train, and what they really mean is, if I say please and I'm polite, you can't ever say no to me. And I think this maybe feeds into that a teensy bit for folks. But I'm not going to hold that against the movie. I think the movie itself is a really interesting, fun time. I'm glad I'm glad I saw it. I'm glad it exists. If it ends up being the thing to take home Best Picture, I will be pleased just for a movie this audacious winning Best Picture, especially after, something so tame winning the last year. It would be cool to see the Academy be that bold again. Not my favorite film. Like I said, there's moments that don't work for me entirely, but overall, I mean, it's an impressive film. I certainly couldn't do it. So
I really like this movie. I saw it when it came out, so I saw it before the big push for it happened. But it's funny. Once the box office kept building and building, and it wasn't dropping, and it just kept making money, I was like, I think this is going to get nominated for Best Picture, because when indies that are this well reviewed have this kind of success, they tend to get nominated. I did not think it would get this kind of front runner success. I really did not think it would be getting any acting success. I thought it would just be the kind of token independent movie that they nominate. But I'm really glad it's nominated. I really like it. I don't have any of the issues with the humor that Mike has. My biggest issues with the movie is mainly I just think it's too long. I think it repeats itself too much in the second act, basically, and a little bit in the third act. It repeats itself. a little bit of tightening, and I think it would have been even better for me. But I don't care that it has an insufferable fan base. I truly like. I think people need to stop letting fan bases affect how they think about movies, because that's what's happening to this movie. And even if it's not my favorite movie of the year, I'm gonna tell people, I'm gonna say to people when they get all like condescending about this movie, I'm like, shut the fuck up. You just doing that because the fans annoy you. Like, whatever. Like, I think it's fun. I think there is a level of profundity that is impressive for a movie this dopey and silly and fun. That movies that strain for profundity can't even come halfway close to reaching. Babylon, we mentioned before, is one of those movies straining for profundity with that fucking ending of Babylon. And Everything Everywhere just kind of throws profundity and existential despair and sadness at you like it's just cranking out fucking 20s at an ATM. I've seen this movie with a bunch of people, and they were all devastated by this movie. I think this movie gets to something. There is a thing this generation, I think, that a lot of us are dealing with, which is the world is so fucked up and we can't find any success and we think we're bad because of it and we're depressed because of it. And I've certainly felt that way, not so much now because I do have like a decent job and I feel very blessed about that, but like shit, I didn't get this job till I was 28. 27 years of my life, I felt like a fucking failure, a loser. Like, why am I even here? I should just end it all. Like, what even is the point of it? And I think this movie, it does what I think the best sci-fi fantasy things do. It couches a lot of the things that we are interested in a more palatable package. I think if you just had a movie about a Chinese family dealing with the despair of not achieving their dreams, it wouldn't be as interesting as the crazy fucking nonsense these guys threw at us. It's like Rod Serling said, I couldn't write about racism until I made The Twilight Zone and I just made them aliens. Um, so I think this movie's really good. It's really good. And I did not like Swiss Army Man. I thought that movie sucked. And it ended on a pro incel message, which I couldn't believe. Um, but the death of Dick Long was great, and I think this is a step up for them. So, like Mike said, something this audacious being nominated is fucking cool. Like anybody that's mad about this movie, even if you don't like it, like the fact that it's even nominated is crazy. Like this shouldn't happen. So be happy that probably the most audacious movie of the year that was made for ostensibly pennies got nominated. That's cool. That's awesome. And yeah, I can't wait to see Michelle Yeoh win a fucking Best Actress fucking statue when she was the female Jackie Chan for the longest time. And then she just kind of wasn't around for a bit. Ke Huy Quan. I love that he comes back after just not be existing for like 20 years. And he's going to win Best Supporting Actor. And he's now going to have a career acting, which he always wanted. I also love that he still sounds exactly like he did when he was a kid. He sounds like he did 40 years ago. It's weird, but it's awesome. He's just a nice little man, and he needs all the awards, and I'm glad he's getting them. So this movie is really fucking cool and really good. A little bit of tightening in the edit, and I think you would have been dealing with a 10 out of 10 fucking banger here, but right now you got a triple, and there's nothing wrong with a triple.
Next up, The Fabelmans.
Hell yeah, baby. The Beard is back with a vengeance. And it only goes to show the power of West Side Story that this is a step down for Spielberg. The marketing did this movie no fucking favors, because this is not a the power of cinema movie. This is not that at all. This is a movie about a man dealing with his past, dealing with his own place in history, and how he deals with art and personal issues, and really just wrangling with how he came to be. It's almost like a superhero origin story, but there is a darkness and a sadness to this that you do not get from the marketing, that people did not expect from Spielberg, which I don't get why people still have this idea of him as the treacly fucking fucking E.T. guy. And even E.T. is not treacly. It's a movie about divorce, you fucking jerks. This is a guy who's been dealing with darkness in a easily digestible way his entire career. The way he's able to be honest about his own shortcomings. I mean, is there any more haunting scene than when Sammy is watching his family fall apart and he sees himself in the reflection of how he would be filming it? That's dark. That Spielberg is aware enough to say, I kind of am fucked up in that I don't think about emotions first. I think about cinema first. And there's also, the growing artist thing of he doesn't really realize how art can affect people. He just thinks it's a fun thing, but seeing how it affects his mother with the way when he sees that she's having an affair in the trip film, how it affects her, how it affects the bully when he makes the film for the final dance of the year for the bully, how it affects that fucking guy, and he doesn't know how to feel. And Sammy's just like, I was just making a movie, or filming Proto Saving Private Ryan in the deserts of Arizona, and he's realized like, oh, this actor, I kind of broke this guy. Is this? I don't know what I'm doing. And just the family stuff, man. The way it's saying how you need to find a balance between the thing inside of you that you love and the things outside of you that you love. That his parents did not have the right balance. That his father was too scientific, and his mother shut all of the things out that she loved because she loved Bert. But that drove her crazy. And Sammy is able to benefit from their flaws and their mistakes. Or will he? We don't know. I mean, we do, because it's Steven Spielberg and he's been happily married for 40 years. That's great for him. I really just can't say how much I love this movie. Michelle Williams is great. I don't care what any fucking idiots say about it. Steven Spielberg is able to cast his own mother correctly. That seems to be, a basic fundamental thing you need to do to be able to cast your own mother. Do you remind me of my mother? Yeah? Okay, you got the job. Paul Dano's amazing. Absolute fucking crime he's not nominated this year. Absolute fucking crime. Gabriel LaBelle. I feel like he's this unsung hero of the movie no one's talking about, because you got Michelle, you got Dano, you got Judd Hirsch. Even Seth Rogen's getting more fucking flowers than this fucking kid. And he's amazing. It is a much more haunting, emotionally resonant, honest movie about art and family and the convergence of the two things than I've seen in a long time. That also ends on the greatest fucking cameo in years. I won't spoil it for people, but just know, if the horizon's at the top of the frame, it's interesting. If the horizon's at the bottom of the frame, it's interesting. If the horizon's in the middle of the frame, it sucks. Now get the fuck out of my office. I love this fucking movie. This is my number 2 movie of the year. My number 1 didn't get nominated, but this is my number 2 movie of the year. So this is a movie I am truly gunning for this Best Picture race. I'm so happy it's nominated, and I love that Spielberg's just on this hot streak. I forgot to mention this, but the straight-ahead confrontation of anti-Semitism, how he doesn't shy away from how fucked up it was being Jewish back in the 60s. And let's not forget the great Judd Hirsch scene. Really just hammering home the themes of the movie without being overly didactic or treacle or whatever. Yeah, I remember being shocked at seeing for the first time. Like, oh wow, he's literally showing the anti-Semitism and having these kids call him the K word and scrawling fucking swastikas on his locker, and I'm like, oh wow, he is getting dark and not shying away from it, which again feels like he had to make this movie now in the wake of rising anti-Semitism, to be like, yeah, no, let's not do this again, guys. I know what this leads to. This is not good. And Just reminds me of from that Spielberg documentary from HBO, where he says, "I never went to therapy. Movies are my therapy." And this feels like maybe the last session. Uh, he may still be making movies, but this feels like the okay. You're good now. Just keep taking your medicine, and you know, don't marry another Kate Capshaw. You've got one. Don't do it again.
I agree with Tom. I'll start with saying, I mean, I agree with everything Tom said, but I'll start with Tom's right. The marketing did this movie no favors, right? I think it's still done this film no favors. A thing that's driving me insane from people. In fact, even Kyle and I were talking about it off mic. But like when I hear people saying, "Well, it's probably a front runner for Best Picture because the Academy loves movies about movies," and I'm like, it's not only not a front runner for Best Picture at all, and that's not what the movie is, but also like, guy, it just clearly is from people who haven't even seen it or engaged with it, who have just written it off for what it is, for what they think it is. I think that the thing that makes this movie so fascinating is people thought it was going to be a movie that waxed nostalgic because Spielberg is known for his movies that wax nostalgic, right? He is still decades later tagged for that big Amblin energy. And this is a movie that really reckons with why did I make all those movies with that Amblin energy, right? It's a movie that it involves Steven Spielberg, the man whose movies defined Americana, taking the torch from like Norman Rockwell, and rather than make a movie going, "Boy, my childhood was swell," making a movie going, "Let me give you a sense of what a particular and jittery individual I was from such a desperation for stability that this is why I made all of these Americana films," right? He's being so candid about I don't think he ever I think the thing is Spielberg's earlier work when he made it as a younger man could oscillate between like my parents' divorce is the worst thing that ever happened in the history of the world, or boy, being a kid was swell, right? And I think that he's over the decades recognized that those were young man's views, the same way he now condemns his own ending of Close Encounters. And I think that what the Fabelmans is really all about, in the most interesting way, is he realizes in the Fabelmans, and he is confronting the idea that a story is affected by the storyteller, right? That all of the other films that have included elements of his life have all been elements of his life filtered through his point of view. And this is Steven Spielberg confronting his own point of view. The scene Tom evoked about him watching the divorce and imagining himself filming it. The moment where his sister is so upset and the only thing he can do to try and connect to her is, "Do you want to watch a cut of my movie?" The fact that film is the only way he knows how to communicate, you know, and again, when the bully confronts him about why'd you film me that way, and he doesn't necessarily even know. And Sammy's just there like, I don't know. I did it because I had to, or because I wanted you to be nice to me, or I don't know. Spielberg kind of confronting in so many ways, like not as much as he wanted to in his early days portray himself as the classic all-American kid, him actually confronting like, no, I am a cinema savant, and let me show you how that maybe caused me some trouble and how that twisted how I viewed the world, and the masterstroke of this thing. I loved this movie through and through, but the movie could have not fallen apart, but fallen flat if it wasn't for that ending shot. Because a whole movie about that is meant to be critical of the storyteller, a whole movie that is critical of the point of view, can fall flat if the entire movie is shot by that same person and their point of view behind the camera. But that masterstroke of the camera tilt at the end, that little wink reminding you, yeah, I know this is me. Yeah, I know what I am. I have made peace with it. I get who I am now. And I'm still learning and I'm still adjusting and I'm still trying. It just, I mean, look, there is no arguing that Steven Spielberg is one of the great filmmakers. The man, as he shows us in this film, he just thinks in cinema. It's the thing he was born to do. To get to see something so earnestly autobiographical is is miraculous. This is his Ammer chord. This is that. And done in only his way. Um, I think the performances are great. I think the script is great. It's a crackerjack picture if ever there was one. And I think that time is going to be very kind to this movie, even if right now people are lukewarm on it.
Next up, Tar.
Boy, howdy, what a picture. It really is one of these things with Tar where it's like, I you know we complain a lot on this show about how modern cinema has gotten too didactic. It has gotten too blunt and too interested in beating you over the head with what it's trying to say. And God, in that regard, Tar was a breath of fucking fresh air, man. And that's why the discourse around it has been so complicated, is that Todd Field is an old school filmmaker in that way. He is a student of Kubrick in that way, where he's like, look, I'm going to put, and it's true of all his films. I mean, not that he's made that many, but it's true of Little Children. It's true of In the Bedroom. I'm going to put a lot of ambiguity up on the screen. I'm going to make you feel a little uncomfortable. I'm going to play with your perspective on things. And, you come out of it and see if maybe you feel differently than you did before. His movies are not about patting you on the back for what you think. His movies are not about making you feel good about what you think. Tar is the finest version of that. It's obviously the best film he's made. It's a fascinating film in terms of its script, in terms of its performances, in terms of its craft. Anybody who comes away from it saying they know exactly what it's about is lying, because this movie leaves a lot out there for you to toss around in your head, and there's no definitive one answer for anything. There was an essay going around about how the movie is actually a literal ghost story, and while I don't subscribe to that interpretation, Jesus Christ, it feels great to see a movie that has this many different interpretations that you can take away from it and not look at those interpretations and go, God, you're really reaching to make this work. Like, it leaves enough there. People have tried to describe it as a movie about cancel culture, or tried to describe it as a movie about sexual impropriety, or it's about our modern day culture. It's about power. It's about the music scene, the classicist scene. It's about a million and one things without having to make one definitive statement on it. It's an exploration. I think it's one of the best performances Cate Blanchett has ever given, and that's saying a lot. But I think that not enough is being said about the technical side of this film, about Todd Field's direction, about the look of the film, the feel of the film. This movie lures you into a murky water and just has you sit in it for 2.5 hours. It's an airtight script that every time you watch it, you discover new little things, little hints dropped along the way about where this is all going to go. It's very fun kind of trying to put together the pieces of who filmed the Juilliard classroom, who did all these things. I think that the Juilliard classroom scene in particular kind of sums up how this movie is so effective, and also how many people are getting it wrong in terms of people coming away from the scene trying to figure out who is the good guy and who is the bad guy in the conversation between Lydia Tarr and the student who says they don't care about old white composers. There is no good guy or bad guy. They both make some valid points, but both people are digging in their heels too much. They're too stubborn to see anything else, and nobody is interested in growing or expanding or having any level of introspection. And that is the undoing of Lydia Tarr, and that's the undoing of so many people. The ending is a real surprise in the direction it goes, and a lot of fun. That's the other thing. It's a drama. It's bleak at points, but it's still kind of fun to watch this person's undoing and all the bizarre twists and turns it takes. It was so refreshing in terms of, we had this 2 years ago with The Father. When I remember seeing The Father in theaters and being so delighted, having had a low bar for it and being so delighted of like, oh, we're doing something interesting. A director's actually doing something interesting, trying an interesting conceit in the film and an interesting format, an interesting style, without hitting you over the head with that style, or without hitting you over the head with that conceit. Tar does that too. I was so entranced by it. Admittedly, as I was saying to Kyle before we started, like, it was a movie that I saw in theaters, and I went, wow, right now that's my number one. But the years long, I'm certain there are going to be other things that that knock it out for me. I wish that was the case in terms of I wish this was stronger, but I love Tar. I think it's one of the most impressive films in a while, and a real how to put it, throwback to when movies were allowed to be more ambiguous, which I think is terrific. So I'm all in on Tar. Love it.
Yeah, I really liked Tar too, and I was surprised at that mainly because the marketing. I mean, I don't know how you market this movie, but the marketing was pretty obnoxious and made it seem like it was going to be a tedious fucking chore to get through, and it's not. I will say, like everything everywhere, I think it's too long. I think there could be some trimming. I think it kind of doesn't overstay its welcome, but you kind of there's at certain points you're like, all right, I get the point. Let's get on to the next thing now. Um, but Kate's amazing. I love the ambiguity. The Juilliard scene, one of the best scenes of the year. And I really do. I think the thing that really I latched onto is that the ambiguity is it's ambiguity in just such multiple ways, and I don't mean in like what is it about. I mean in what the actual situation is with Lydia, because you never actually get any answers of was it sexual with that student. Uh, did she break up with the student because she was done with her sexually? Did the student actually get crazy and Lydia did have to break up with her? If whatever is the actual answer to all of these things, does it really matter since the fucking girl killed herself? Does Lydia kind of fuck over her assistant when she's picking that role because she doesn't want to be seen as doing favors to other people, or is this just a thing she does and she uses people and doesn't expect it to blow back in her face? I found all of that leaving so much ambiguous like that could leave a movie feeling empty, but this movie never feels that way. This movie feels purposefully like you're in Lydia's shoes in this moment. It's never flashing back to give you the answers. You're feeling in Lydia's at the time, which also fits because Lydia, like Mike says, is not introspective. So while this situation is arising, she's not self-aware or introspective enough to think about what happened. All she knows is I don't want anything bad to happen to me, so I'm going to delete the emails, seemingly forgetting that doesn't delete the emails on the other person's account. Good job, Lids. You fucking moron. Clearly she's never sent a dick pic in her life. I just think this movie, and I texted it to Mike when I started it, that it is immediately so confident, and that I'm not gonna say like with Mike about the movies can be ambiguous today. But what I will say is that since we live in such a world that is producer heavy now, it is refreshing to see a movie that is directed so confidently that you felt like there was a hand, irregardless of my feelings about if it could have been edited a little tighter. It feels so like this guy knows exactly what he wants and how he's gonna fucking achieve it. And in a different year, Kate would have her third fucking Oscar, but I think Michelle's gonna get it, and I think Michelle kind of deserves it because Kate, share your toys. Like, enough already. You can get your Oscar when Borderlands comes out. And I think it's the kind of great movie that is artistic and ambiguous and deep. But I think if you were able to put it in front of a normie, I do think they could actually enjoy it because it is funny in scenes. It's not like a dour fucking A24 horror movie or something where it's just one note the entire time and it's all about impressing you with how smart it is. This is kind of just what movies should be. There are variances in the characters and their moods and behaviors and everything. So, yeah, I'm fucking pretty stoked that this movie got nominated.
Flying into our airspace next, Top Gun Maverick.
Okay, so Top Gun Maverick. When this movie was done filming 4 years ago, that's right. Done filming 4 years ago. Remember when a pandemic screwed up so many things? Nobody thought this would be the case. Nobody thought this movie would even be good. even the hardcore Tom Cruise stands that think everything he does, including disappearing women's bodies, is always an award-worthy thing. Even they were like, I don't know, a Top Gun sequel 40 years later without Tony Scott, and then the movie came out, and even people that don't like these kind of movies were like, wait, this movie's great. How did this happen? And then it kept making money in ways that doesn't happen in the modern cinemascape, because everything's about opening weekend. Movie comes out on Blu-ray in 2 months, comes out on digital in a month, and we kind of move on from it. Oh, it's a success opening weekend. Movie was a success opening weekend. Then it just kept making money. 20% drop, 10% drop. Oh wow, it went up 5%. This movie was in theaters until I think a month ago. This is what used to happen with movies. And it's fitting for a movie that is a throwback, that is a sequel 40 years later, that is dealing with nostalgia and the past, that it would be a movie that broke ground in ways that we don't see anymore, that was able to connect everybody. And it's because it is just simple, and it packs old school movie thrills. Watching Tom Cruise fly a jet, literally fly a jet, the fucking psychopath he stopped production for a year so he could learn to fly a goddamn fighter jet to film the action scenes even more interestingly than they could have with CGI or with stunt doubles. That's an option, Tom. I don't know if you've heard of it. In many ways, it's crazy that the movie's nominated because it's such a simple blockbuster. This is not like Avatar, where there is like pushing cinema forward with tech or having these deeper themes about the world and the environment and family, where this is a movie quite simply about Tom Cruise's place in cinema. And there's stuff in it about, the modern blockbuster landscape and how the new kids, they're more than worthy of taking up Tom's position, but they need to learn how to do things the old way and not the new, boring ways. But it's ultimately just a simple movie about a guy flying a jet, teaching other kids how to fly a jet, and blowing up shit in the trench run from Star Wars, the second time Joseph Kosinski's done that ending, which is insane. Just let him make a Star Wars movie. But as we all know, Star Wars isn't a movie franchise anymore. It's only strictly for TV. Thank you, JJ. I don't know what else to say, because the whole point of this structure is me and Mike aren't going to argue. So I just think it's great that this is here. It saved the box office. It saved movie theaters. I don't know if audiences would have been well prepared to make Avatar the third highest grossing movie of all time if Top Gun didn't let them know it was safe to go back to the theaters again. And honestly, it's just something I hope, and I know Hollywood's not going to take the right lessons from it. They're going to just make more legacy sequels, but it's something I hope Hollywood learns, which is people want to see movies that feel like they were made by people and not by a committee. It's like I said with Tar, we don't usually see movies that feel so confident and feel like they were guided by a steady hand. And this is what it felt like. We've had legacy sequels that do not feel like this at all. And I don't like the original Top Gun. I think it fucking sucks. So again, like with Avatar, consider me surprised that the second entry in a long-delayed sequel actually made me really happy and made me a big fan. So 10 picks was always supposed to be the thing of getting more variety in what's nominated. So yeah, I'm glad Top Gun's nominated. It's not a perfect movie. It's not a movie I gave 5 stars on Letterboxd. It's a 4.5 out of 5 for me. But the movie just is cool, and it's fun, and it's simple, and I got a new TV and I got to hook it up, and I'm probably gonna blow out the fucking surround sound with Top Gun Maverick tonight. So yeah, now here comes the Undertaker.
Top Gun Maverick, they're flying the planes, and it's just like it was in the 80s. No one in the movie's wearing a cape, which means any cliche is okay now. I am losing my fucking mind with this film. And I want to be clear when I say that. I liked the movie. I enjoyed the movie. I went to go see the movie. I enjoyed myself at the movie. I saw that the movie was making money. I went, good. People are going back to the theaters. And I went, this was fine. I went to the movies. I paid my money. I had fun, and I watched a perfectly fine blockbuster. I had the exact same experience 2 years prior when I went to go see Fast and Furious 9 in the theaters. But after Fast and Furious 9, while I did hear people go, well, this is saving cinema because it gets people to go back to the movies, I didn't hear people going, unimpeachable masterpiece, obvious frontrunner for Best Picture. Here's my thing with Top Gun Maverick. I think it is a mostly well-done legacy sequel. Now, I wasn't in a rush to go see it. I wasn't. I was going to see it eventually. My partner, her boss, and all the people at work were like, oh my God, have you gone to see Top Gun 2 yet? Like, it feels like an old 80s movie. You got to go see it. It's great. So we went to go see it. She had never seen the original Top Gun, so we watched that the night before, and then we went to go see the new one. And we both walked out and went, that was pretty good. Pretty good. I think my big thing with this one is that I think that it's a very clear 3-act structure. I like the first act fine. I love the second act. I loathe the third act. So that's a real put off for me with this movie. But I think the big thing, and the folks listening won't hear this for a while because it's in one of our season 3 episodes, but our good friend Kenny Neibart was on recently, and he likes the movie a lot more than me, but he echoes a similar sentiment to me, which is just, why is this the movie? Like, why did this become the big rallying cry? And that's kind of my thing, is that I walked out of a solid movie, a solid time at the cinema, and came out and I heard all these people doing this thing that happens sometimes where people get real hyped up on a film. It happens every time a Mission Impossible movie comes out. Film Twitter people will just pick a movie sometimes and just be like, unapologetically rules. It's great. It's great. And when I try and get to the heart of like, okay, what am I missing here? I'll start hearing arguments where I'm like, this doesn't hold water to me. Like, what are we doing? Like, there's something about, I heard people saying like, oh, well, the great thing, before I saw it, I heard people going like, well, the great thing about Top Gun Maverick is it's Tom Cruise finally accepting that he's getting older. And it's about Tom Cruise understanding that he has to step back and hand things off to the next generation. Which, when you're watching the movie for Act 1 and Act 2, makes sense. Act 1, Tom Cruise doesn't want to admit that he's not the top hotshot anymore, and John Hamm's trying to, finger wag him down and be like, Maverick, you got to get it under control. You got to teach these young kids to fly the mission. Act 2, the one scene in that movie that I think is unimpeachably great and that they handled brilliantly is him running into Iceman again. Great. Perfect. Loved that scene. Really well done. Even the thing when Tom Cruise is getting the youngins to fly the plane to Won't Get Fooled Again and they're all getting dizzy in the plane. Fun. It's a fun time. And I'm watching it and going, okay, so this is about Tom Cruise finally accepting like he's got to stay on the ground and let them fly. And then it turns around and it's like, no, actually, Tom Cruise, you're the only one that can lead this mission. That's right, baby boomer. You got this, buddy. And so he gets in the plane and he flies the fucking mission. So already we're kind of pushing back on this. Well, it's about him learning to step back. And then, Act 2, he flies the mission, he crashes the plane, and I thought, what a bold move. Like, truly, what a bold move. A la, like, when Clint Eastwood allows himself to die in Gran Torino, and you're like, well, that's ballsy. That's a ballsy move. I'm like, oh, cool, Tom Cruise is having his Gran Torino. No, he made it. And not only did he make it, but he's going to get them out of there. How? Flying his old model plane, everybody. And he gets in his old plane, just like it was in the 80s, and he takes off, and Highway to the Danger Zone, and I don't know, Thundercats show up, and Ronald Reagan joins in, and like, it does definitely fall into some nostalgia trappings, and it's definitely a little closer to some of the things people hate about legacy sequels than anybody wants to admit. And the thing that's throwing me off with all this is it's just the fact that it's like, if I could just, like, even just before when Tom said, it's not a perfect movie, it's like, it makes me breathe easier. Because the most baffling thing with this, as somebody who truly just doesn't get it, and I want to, like, I did want to, like, I wanted people to tell me why. And I wanted people to be able to either look me in the eyes and honestly say, the reason we like this is because we're sick of the superhero movies, because they're not my thing. I didn't grow up with them. I don't like them. And now this is more like the stuff that I liked. I understand that that's AARP movie for grown-ups logic, but that's what it feels like when I'm hearing people kind of just talk about. There were so many things where with this movie, it feels like the Ricky Gervais Life is Short sketch. We talked about this with Kenny too, where it's just like, well, the recurring line of, well, why is it okay when he does it? Things that they would not let slide in any other movie, this one is allowed. Discourse that any other movie would be treated to, this one, it all gets a pass. Every cliche, anything that you do, this one gets a pass. And I find it so strange, I don't want to be vitriolic about it. And I really, it's not the lowest on my list. It's absolutely not. I think it's fine, but I do just think it's weird. Like Kenny will say in a future episode, like, why was this the one? Now, Tom and I are going to be appearing on Phil Isco's Patreon soon to be doing a double feature discussion of Top Gun and Top Gun Maverick. So I think we'll be getting into as Tom said, the debating of it back and forth more on there. But it just, I don't know, man. I remain baffled by why was it this one. I don't hate it, but why was it this? Top Gun.
Mike, you're being glib. Mike, you're being glib.
Real planes.
As I freshly dig up a new grave.
Up next, Triangle of Sadness.
Oh. Okay. So, here's the thing. All I want from modern film going is introspection, right? I said it, when we're talking about Top Gun Maverick before, and the idea that, like, if people could just look me in the eyes and say, yeah, you know what, it's because I don't like Spider-Man and the superheroes, and this is a guy I grew up with, so it's made for me, and I'm happy that it's made for me. I'd be like, cool, I'm glad you enjoyed it. But it's the fact that people are adding profundity to it to try and justify their enjoyment. That's doubly true here. That's a million times truer, because there's no way that anybody can enjoy Triangle of Sadness and have an ounce of introspection. And that's doubly damning for Triangle of Sadness, because Triangle of Sadness is trying to be a satire. And for satire to work, it requires introspection, right? Satire has to have targets, and it has to land blows against those targets. Ruben Östlund fails at that ridiculously with Triangle of Sadness. It is a movie that will change no one's mind on anything, because it actually has nothing to say beyond, haha, rich people are kind of dumb, right? And yet also, nobody who is rich will see themselves in that movie. The satire is entirely toothless. I was shocked when this won the Palme d'Or. Not only because they don't normally give it out twice, and Ruben Östlund had already won for The Square, which is an equally toothless satire, but I was doubly shocked when this got a Best Picture nomination, which people were not predicting. And the only reason I shouldn't have been surprised is that the Academy has shown us year after year that they love toothless satire. This is perfectly in line with Don't Look Up, with Vice, with Jojo Rabbit, with so many satires that are actually like just for the people who are already on the right side to chuckle at. It's not going to do anything. It's not going to move any needle. It's so smug. It's so self-assured, and it has nothing interesting to say. I have not encountered anybody in my own life who has watched this movie and been like, yeah, I loved it. Everybody's just kind of been like, really? It has nothing interesting to say. It's saying what? Models are vapid. Rich people are full of themselves. Communists and capitalists are both frauds. And I don't know, puke is funny. It's a bafflingly inept film that, again, it feels like a modern Adam McKay movie. It's exasperating in its smugness, and at the very least, with Don't Look Up last year, Adam McKay took like 10 minutes to be self-critical about himself through the Leo DiCaprio character. There's at least a little bit of self-criticism there. This, absolutely not. I don't know what Ruben Östlund thinks he's saying, but good God, is it just the most childishly toothless satire. I am... Ugh. Triangle of Sadness.
Yeah, so I hated this movie. This is the lowest movie of the nominees for me, worse than Elvis. Everything Mike said. It is empty, it is vapid, it is just a fucking chore to watch. It's like just so weirdly formless. It just feels like a fucking asshole college kid who took some poli-sci classes and does improv on the weekends had like scenes and then just threw them together. There's no like driving force to any of this. And the satire, who is he like what is who's the audience for this movie? Because nobody's going to be offended by this. Like the targets are not going to get hurt by what he's saying here. And the blue collar shitheads like us are going to watch it and be like, okay, and like what? Cool, rich people suck. That's really all you got, and it takes you like 2 hours and 20 minutes to tell that fucking story. Which I'm using story in fucking quotations because there is no goddamn story in this thing. I said this to Mike, where it's, I wasn't liking it the whole time, but what crystallized for me what the problem with this movie is and what Aslan's problem is that there's a scene when they're on the island at the end, and the rich Russian capitalist guy finds his wife dead body washed up on the coast, and he's cradling her and he's crying, and then he starts taking the jewelry off of her because haha, he's rich and he only cares about money and things. And I was like, oh, that's what Ruben Östlund's problem is. He does not see any of these characters as people. They are just points to, knock off his little like gotcha scorecard. They're not, there's not a shred of humanity in this fucking thing, and it just leaves the whole thing pointless. You're just watching like, what are we even doing here? And we were talking about this with Ben on the David Holzman Diary episode of just satire. It needs to have like, there needs to be humanity. You need to like the targets. You can't just like, I don't know. I don't even want to talk about this movie, but and then it just ends. Like there's no ending. It just cuts to credits, and you're like, what? Wait, that's the ending. It's over. I mean, like, thank God it's over. Yes, thank you for ending my misery, but that's it. That's all you have. And yeah, like the square fucking sucked, but I like this is a new fucking low, man. This is like, as much as the Adam McKay shit fucking sucks, and this is closer to Don't Look Up than Vice or whatever, but like, fuck, like at least Vice was like telling a true story, and it may not have been telling it in the best way possible. It's like, all right, well, at least this is a thing that happened. So you can't fault him for like telling a story that happened. This is all your imagination could come up with? You're an award-winning filmmaker, and we're gonna keep lauding you for coming up with this fucking empty pablum? No. This is just truly, it's embarrassing that it's nominated. It's truly embarrassing. And I made the joke that it's so bad I wouldn't be surprised if it wins Best Picture. But like, what the fuck? This is, I don't know, man. This movie actively like made me mad. Like, where I don't like Elvis, you heard my rant before. But like, At least you had the good music to keep you going with Elvis, even if you didn't like it. This has nothing, just dead air. Fuck this movie. I am truly like, I wake up in sweats at night knowing that this guy's making another movie. Where he's like, oh, well, how's this for a deep satirical scene? A 5-minute scene where a little child can't use his iPad. Hoo-hoo-hoo! Got you again, society! It's like, oh, go fuck yourself. I hate this. Fuck this movie. Ugh.
I want to make an official declaration, Tom. That is the official Ruben Östlund impression, and I need you to bring it out as often as possible.
Ooh, what if a bunch of rich people vomited on a boat? Ooh, got you again, society!
This is my new favorite bit.
I mean, because it's like you said, it's so smug. You have to imagine him sitting there so self-satisfied of like, ooh, got you again! Ooh, feel my wrath! Ooh!
Our final film, or our final nominee, rather. Women talking.
Love that transition.
There's not a clean way to transition out of that one, I'm afraid. I figured we would just cut it, and
yeah,
just say
fine.
like, oh, that's
No,
it.
it's fine.
So
It's fine. Women talking. I saw that I was the one that had to be the first to speak in this. I was like, are you like trying to subtly burn me that Tom, the guy who seems like he was molded out of like a vial of testosterone that got struck by lightning, has to talk about a movie called Women Talking first? But this is a good fucking movie, guys. This is a great fucking movie, if we're being honest. Like slightly below the 5 on Letterboxd for me, but like this is a great fucking movie. And this isn't a slight to Sarah Polley, but it was like I wasn't dancing with joy to go see this movie. I was gonna see it because I like Sarah Polley. I'm interested. I want to see what she's got to do, what she's got with something that's not like semi autobiographical or what a lot of fucking actors who become directors do. Like away, what the fuck was it called? Take This Waltz. Like Take This Waltz, where it's just we're just gonna let actors act and that's it. There's no drama. It's just actors acting. Like okay, but the movie kind of knocked my socks off a little bit. This is really fucking good. This feels very much like a descendant to 12 Angry Men. Of a bunch of people in a room talking. And that does not seem like it should be the most cinematically engaging thing in the world. It sounds like a stage play. It sounds like a book, which this was based on. But Sarah Polley makes this very cinematic. She makes this very engrossing. She uses all of her clout to get a fucking murderer's row of actresses in this fucking thing. And actor Ben Whishaw, we got to give that dude credit for being, not to make the joke the not all men guy, but he's he's the one guy in this entire society that's not running around raping women like it's a Scientology convention. But I'm just taking Scientology to task today. But just and I've seen people knock this movie for the women aren't characters, they're just mouthpieces for different ideas. I'm like, I don't think that's true. I think these women feel like real human beings that would exist in this story. And we see these women in real life. The Rooney Mara is kind of the not the ditzy one, but she's spacey and she's very lovey and she loves people and she sees the good in things. But even she's like, well, this isn't good. We should find a different way to do things. Blah blah blah. You got the Jessie Buckley role, who's just she's so mad and she knows she should be mad, but she's so used to this society that she's afraid of changing anything. You got Claire Foy, she's just mad and wants to burn it all down, and she's gonna run around cutting dicks off if it's the last thing she does. You got Frances McDormand, who's kind of the Sam Jackson and Django Unchained of this movie. She hears the women talking about leaving, and she's like, "Nope, not interested in that," and she just fucking leaves, and she's done with the movie. Where I'm like, "Oh, Frances McDormand's coming back, right?" And no, she's not. She's done. She's out of this movie because that kind of woman is just. She's not going to listen. She's going to go back to her little cottage and do the, Mennonite version of watching Fox News. This movie's just so full of gentle rage. This isn't a burn it all down movie, but this is an angry movie about how it sucks. It just sucks being a woman. Like, this is not a world where women are allowed to have any agency, and this is a movie that gives these women agency and watches them walk through the idea of, wait, we do have agency. We can make decisions. We can get away from a world where we get fucking raped at night because the men just drug us and use us as sex tools. Um, and I've seen the movie get knocked for its visuals, and I don't understand that one bit, because the visuals is part of the narrative. Because we're getting into spoilers, best pictures here. You're spending like the first 40 minutes, it's got this look where it's like, oh, they're doing this period piece kind of visuals where it looks like it's making you think it's like the 1800s or whatever, or like, it's pre-Civil War era and these women are dealing with this shit. And then you see a truck driving down and you're like, wait a minute, and it's blasting Daydream Believer. And you're like, okay, well, I guess it's still a period movie. I guess it's the 70s or whatever. And then you hear on a loudspeaker, come on out to be counted for the 2010 census. And I was knocked out of my fucking seat. I was like, that's fucking brilliant. It is a better executed version of the twist from The Village. Once again, go fuck yourself, M. Night. There is no beats that makes you old here. This is a good movie. I was just knocked back of just visually making you think it's another time, telling you it's actually a modern story, which is all about the themes of this shit hasn't changed in centuries. We can put a different these women could be in different clothing. They could be in fucking Lululemon workout wear at a Jamba Juice talking about their husband who beat them because, they're cops and that's what they do. This doesn't change. I see that look. I thought it was a brilliant decision. I don't know. I thought it was just so well done. And uh I don't know necessarily what keeps it from being a 5 out of 5. I don't know if it's that it's maybe a little too long. I think the ending's a little too long. It kind of overstates its welcome a little bit. It could have got to that point a little quicker. But I thought this was really fucking good, man. I thought this was really fucking good, and I'm really happy it's nominated. Crazy none of these actresses were nominated. Absolute fucking insanity, none of these actresses were nominated. Even if you're gonna just do one of them, like, at least acknowledge that if this movie's nominated for Best Picture, it's because of what these women do in this movie. So I'm big on this movie, and I really think Sarah Polley took a big leap with her directorial abilities on this one. And I hope it's not another long gap for her to make another one. This was really something fucking special, I think.
This is one of those cases on one of our Oscar episodes where I'm forced to go, yeah, Tom took the words out of my mouth. I fully agree. I loved this film. And I also was a little begrudging on it because it just, when we talk about the marketing and all that, it did have a bit of the energy of one of those movies that a certain sect of Connecticut boy film Twitter would like get really high up on because the kind of film critic who makes their entire personality that gif of Saoirse Ronan going women from Little Women, like that guy had that kind of energy where I was like, I don't know, is this going to land? And but I like Sarah Polley, and I was very excited. And when I sat down and I saw it, I was blown away. I think, like, as soon as the credits rolled, I texted Tom like, go see this. You have to. It's just and like Tom, I had the exact moment of, I mean, I understood that it was a contemporary film and a contemporary setting before this scene, but like when the Daydream Believer sequence happened, I truly, the hairs on my arms stood up. Like, I got chills. It's so perfectly executed. And anybody who complains about the style or, the directing or whatever, if the rest of the film is too subtle for you, which is really all I can say, pulling off something like that, like Tom pointed out, that could have easily felt like a stage play and doesn't, and is still dynamic and well shot without being showy. The masterful Daydream Believer sequence, and particularly the beautiful and tender intimacy of Ben Whishaw singing the song to himself. And that tells you everything you need to know about him, and the way he sings it, knows the song and all that. Is so moving and so well done. It feels maybe silly for me to say this about a movie that is nominated for Best Picture, but I'm almost annoyed at how few people are championing this movie. It's one of the best films of the year. It's exceptional. And the kind of people in the film Twitter world, and I know we're not supposed to get upset about fan bases or not, but like the kind of people in the film sphere and the critical sphere who you would normally count on to champion this kind of movie, the kind of people who, through their dogged efforts, got so many Celine Sciamma movies on the Sight and Sound poll and all of that, have been largely silent on this movie because they're too busy championing Tom Cruise and his planes. And it's like, guys, there are plenty of people to do that. Why? Where are more people speaking out for women talking? I think it's only up for 2 statues. Like Tom said, it should be up for many, many more. I think this movie is criminally underrated, which is, again, is silly to say about a Best Picture nominee, but it's so well done. It's so well executed. It's so engrossing and deeply moving. And a thing that I find the most impressive about this film, that so many movies fail to do, is, like Tom pointed out, it gives you these characters who, you know, I also don't agree with the criticism, oh, they're just stating points of view. No, they're characters that have particular personalities. And the thing that I really love is that throughout this film, characters' minds change. And their points of view and their perspectives can change, and their personalities never do. In too many movies, a character has a change of heart, and it changes their whole vibe. But even in the final moments when Jesse Buckley is saying goodbye to Ben Wishaw's character and realizing that, like, if he stays behind, you know, what's going to happen, and he's willing to stay behind and just, you know, pass on my regards to Rooney Mara and all that. It's such a brilliant little thing, but Jessie Buckley, you can tell that her entire perspective on Ben Wishaw's character has changed, but her personality never does. She's still perfectly in line with the woman that she was at the beginning of the film, even though her perspective and her mind has changed. And it's a little thing, but it's so brilliantly executed that she still lets these people be people and maintain who they are, even through a seismic shift like this. I think Women Talking is an exceptional one of the best Picture nominees, and I hope more people seek it out. I hope it gets the love it deserves.
So now you're ranking them.
I'll go first. So I'll be going in ascending order, 10 to 1. My ranking is Triangle of Sadness, Elvis, All Quiet on the Western Front, Tar, Women Talking, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Avatar: The Way of Water, Top Gun: Maverick, Banshees of Inisherin, and The Fabelmans.
What are you swapping, Tom?
Oh, correct. So obviously I'm taking out Triangle of Sadness and Elvis, and I'm putting in The Northman and 3,000 Years of Longing.
So for me, I'll just make it clear in my rankings, just so you guys know, they're kind of broken into 3 subgroups. The ones that are number 1 through 3 have stayed strong. My feelings are the same, if not greater, than on initial viewing. 4 through 7 felt really strong when the credits rolled, but the hype has died down with time, and I've seen some cracks. 8 through 10 didn't feel strongly enough about it when I saw it, like, just didn't matter. So with that being said, number 10, like Tom, Triangle of Sadness. Number 9, All Quiet on the Western Front. Number 8, Top Gun: Maverick. Number 7, Avatar: The Way of Water. Number 6, Elvis. Number 5, Everything Everywhere All at Once. Number 4, The Banshees of Inisherin. Number 3, Women Talking. Number 2, The Fabelmans. And number 1, Tar. And I'll just say for the record, Top Gun: Maverick jumped up a spot recently. It was originally at 9. It went up to 8 because feelings can shift over time. I'm swapping out a bunch. If I had my druthers, I would swap out Triangle of Sadness for RRR, aka Rise, Roar, Revolt. Criminally underappreciated film this year. I would swap out Top Gun: Maverick for The Northman. I would swap out All Quiet on the Western Front for The Woman King. I would swap out Avatar: The Way of Water for a movie I'll be talking about more later. A movie I really believe should be in the Best Picture conversation called Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. And quite frankly, on a given day, if I'm feeling a little saucy, I might even swap out Elvis for a movie called Nope. I don't know. I'm iffy on that one, but the other ones I would absolutely swap out for those other titles. That's where I am on picture. What are we talking next, Kyle?
We've got all the other categories. So we're going to go through like we normally do. And of course, I'm going to ask you if you remember last year's, because I certainly did not remember a lot of these as I was going through. So the first one that we have is Best Director. Do y'all remember who won last year?
I do. Do you remember, Tom?
Not a fucking clue.
It is the only Oscar to go to the movie that was the best movie last year. Jane Campion won for The Power of the Dog.
Oh, that's right. That was the awards tour where she weirdly started shit-talking the Williams sisters.
Yeah. And it was that weird thing where, like, the whole night we're kind of going, is it gonna win Best Picture? Is it gonna win? Then she wins Best Director. We're like, oh, it has a shot. No, Coda wins Best Picture. Anyway, so my ranking for Best Director, this will come as no surprise, but number 5, Ruben Östlund for Triangle of Sadness. Number 4, Martin McDonagh, The Banshees of Inisherin. Number 3, The Daniels, Everything Everywhere All at Once. Number 2, Steven Spielberg, The Fabelmans. And number 1, Todd Field for Tar. Had I my druthers, I would swap out Ruben Östlund for Sarah Polley for Women Talking. And I would swap out Martin McDonagh for SS Rajamouli for RRR, aka Rise, Roar, Revolt.
Actual Best Picture of the year. Just saying.
Okay, so my ranking for directing is Ruben Östlund for Triangle of Sadness, Martin McDonagh for Banshees of Inisherin, Todd Field for Tar, Daniels for Everything Everywhere All at Once, and The Beard for The Fabelmans. If I had my druthers, take that one, society.
When did I become Ruben Östlund?
I don't know, because you're an asshole. If I have my druthers, I'm taking out Triangles of Sadness, Banshees of Inisherin, and Tar, and I'm putting in Robert Eggers for The Northman, George Miller for 3,000 Years of Longing, and Romain Gavras for Athena. If you watch that movie and you just go, how the fuck did this guy do this? Crazy he didn't get nominated for directing, but, I guess they just had to get the fucking Society guy a directing nomination. Fucking dickhead. I swear to God.
Next up, Best Actress. Do you remember who won?
Yes, I do. Tom, do you remember?
No.
I don't blame you for this one. This was such a weird year because it was one of those like categories where nobody really cared. Not that nobody cared, but like it was kind of like I guess whoever. It was Jessica Chastain for The Eyes of Tammy Faye.
Oh my God, that is
Yep. So
nonsense.
yeah. Anyway, you go first, Tom.
All right, so I wasn't able to get to Leslie this year. Shocking, I know it's everywhere. They put it in your mailbox at the first of the month. So I've only seen 4 of the bit.
I thought the watering hole.
I didn't do the watering hole bit. No, doesn't deserve it. So my ranking for Best Actress is going to be 4. So it's going to be Michelle Williams in The Fabelmans, Ana de Armas in Blonde, Cate Blanchett in Tar, and Michelle Yeoh in Everything Everywhere All at Once. And I gotta say, Michelle Williams is at the bottom because she's not the Best Actress. She's a supporting actress. Give me a fucking break. So I'm basically going like full supermarket sweep here. Other than Michelle Yeoh, I'm wiping the board clean. I'm putting Tilda Swinton in for 3,000 Years of Longing. I'm putting Mia Goth in for Pearl. And spoiler for another category, if you want to celebrate Jamie Lee Curtis for a performance this year, give it to her for Halloween Ends. She's good in Everything Everywhere, but come on, if you're going to celebrate the woman, she just said goodbye to Michael Myers. Like, come on.
So I did see all of them. I managed to track down one of the many theaters showing To Leslie, a film that everybody loves and everybody agrees is great, and everybody definitely saw. So my ranking for Best Actress, and I am shocked that Tom had Michelle Williams so low because I expected if I ranked Michelle Williams low, he would yell at me. But here is my ranking. Number 5, Andrea Riseborough in To Leslie. And that's not just about the campaigning or anything like that. Like, you sit and watch the movie and go, this is fine but unextraordinary. So it's actually worse when you watch the movie and you actually see what it is. Like, truly. So number 5, Andrew Riseborough and 2, Leslie. Number 4, Ana de Armas in Blonde. Number 3, Michelle Williams in The Fabelmans, where I agree with Tom on the supporting thing. Number 2, Michelle Yeoh in Everything Everywhere All at Once. And number 1, Kate Blanchett in Tar. Now, I want to be clear. I will also be happier if Michelle Yeoh wins the Oscar than Kate Blanchett. You know who else will be happier if Michelle Yeoh wins the Oscar? Kate Blanchett, who definitely doesn't want this Oscar. But undeniably, this is one of the best performances Kate Blanchett gives. This performance in Tar is to Kate Blanchett what Nomadland is to Frances McDormand, in that, yes, it would give them a third Oscar, but all it will do will make us look at that second Oscar and go, oh, we should have waited. Like, when you look at Nomadland, you're like, oh, if we'd known she had this in the tank, we wouldn't have given her billboards. And you look at Tar, and you're like, if we knew she had this, we probably weren't giving her Blue Jasmine. But that's my number 1. If I'm swapping things out, I take out Andrea Riseborough and I put in Danielle Deadwyler for Till. She's incredible in Till, a movie most people didn't see because they decided what it was before they saw it. She's terrific in it. She should absolutely have been nominated this year. I take out Ana de Armas because if you want to watch a performance akin to what de Armas does in a much better movie, you should watch Mia Goth in the movie Pearl. That's right, I'm doing it just like a horror Twitter hipster. Mia Goth and Pearl, I can't deny it. It's a great performance. I am Pearl pilled. I would also, if I was dropping Michelle Williams into supporting actress, as I would like to do, that makes room for Viola Davis in The Woman King, another movie that got royally screwed this year. So that's my ranking for Best Actress.
Next up, it's Best Actor.
I don't know.
I
Who won last year?
I know we all know who won last year.
What? Why? Was there anything notable about what we can now declare the most cursed category in Oscar history?
That is the fun part about that episode. I mean, you know, we don't know what is on the other side when we record it. And I don't think we've ever publicly acknowledged it. Maybe we have. I'm not sure, but I look back at that fondly and
slap?
go, oh yeah, because
What, that Joseph Mengele won Best
No,
Actor?
Kyle, it's because on last year's we were too busy talking about what a disaster the previous year's Best Actor category was when they moved it to the end of the ceremony.
Oh my God,
and then gave it to Anthony Hopkins when he wasn't there because they thought it was going to go to Chadwick. That's why I'm saying it's the most cursed category.
Oh God. Okay, you're gonna have to remind me of these categories. Oh no.
2 years running. Best Actor has been a shit show.
Oh my God, that's right.
So yes, last year Will Smith won for King Richard. Was my choice. Was my pick. Will Smith's my guy. I'll say it. Kind of wish it had gone down a little differently. Would have made some tweaks here and there.
I'm Richard Williams. Keep my last name out your mouth.
Oh my God.
I'm gonna slap you. Watch yourself. I do commercials.
So I'm going first, right? Yeah, Best Actor. Okay. My 5, and this was tough. I actually think this is a very good category. I'm going to tell you all right now. I have no swaps because I think all of these people deserve to be in this category. It also is crazy to me that I have my number 5 at number 5 because I also think it's a great performance, and I wouldn't be mad if any of these people won. My number 5 is Brendan Fraser in The Whale. Number 4, Austin Butler, Elvis. Number 3, Colin Farrell, The Banshees of Inisherin. Number 2, Bill Nighy in Living. And number 1, Paul Mescal in Aftersun. I basically figured when the nominations came out, having seen the other films, like I was like, oh, this is a 3-way race between Farrell, Butler, and Fraser. The other 2 performances, are probably fine, but it's like a nice little compliment. Then I saw Living, and I was so impressed with what Nighy does in that film. And I'm a huge fan of Ikiru, the original Japanese film, so I was really taken by the subtlety and the sweetness of what Nighy gets to do in that movie. So he jumped to my number 1 spot. And then I finally got to Aftersun, a movie that I think I missed when it was in theaters, and it just had a kind of a vibe where I was like, is this going to be one of those movies that like people hype up at festivals and then you actually watch it and go like, oh, okay. I was so stunned by this movie. I don't want to give anything away about it, but what Paul Mescal manages to do in this movie is incredible. The whole movie is remarkable. It's one of the best films of the year. In a different situation, it would be in Best Picture conversations, but really exceptionally done. And Paul Mescal, just a remarkable performance out of him. But I have no swaps because I think they're all great performances in all their different ways, and I would not be mad at any of these people winning the award.
Okay, so this one is actually, it's really weird that I only got to see 2 of the nominees for this one this year. I couldn't get to The Whale, I couldn't get to After Sun, I couldn't get to Living. It just didn't, I just wasn't able to get to the theater for them, or they just weren't on streaming. I just wasn't able to get to them. So I can only rank Austin Butler and Colin Farrell, and that's the order: Austin Butler and then Colin Farrell. Well, I should say Austin Butler, an entire row of Tom Cruise's graves, and then Colin Farrell. So if I have any swaps, obviously I'm taking out Austin Butler, and I'm putting in Mark Rylance for The Outfit. If anybody saw that movie, they would see an actual masterclass in acting from Mark Rylance. I'm not kidding. You think I'm joking. That is an amazing movie, and Mark Rylance might give his best performance in it. Might. I'm saying might. And if I'm gonna be a bit salty, I didn't see it, and I'm not taking it out because it's bad or I think it's gonna be bad, but mainly because I don't think it has any chance, so why not put in something else that's not gonna win? I'm taking out Bill Nighy for Living, and I'm putting in Gabriel LaBelle for The Fabelmans. I think it's crazy this dude just hasn't been getting any fucking recognition for this movie, and I just I wish he was nominated.
Up
Kyle, what's next?
Best Supporting Actress.
Well, Tom, you remember who won last year? This one you should remember.
I don't.
Tom, what was your favorite movie last year?
What was my?
Remember a motion picture
West
called
Side Story.
Yeah?
Oh, that's right. It was Ariana DeBose.
It was the one Oscar that
that's
movie
nice.
won. Yeah, and I think yeah. So
last year should have just been the 2022 West Side Story Awards.
Anyway, you're up. Best Supporting Actor.
All right, so supporting actress. I didn't see The Whale, so I can't speak to Hong Cho. I'm gonna, no matter what, I'm gonna be disappointed if she doesn't get eaten by a whale in the movie. So my rankings are.
I want to take a moment, and I want to pause, and I just want to acknowledge. I want to continue to. I don't want you to see The Whale now because I want you to continue to believe, sight unseen, that the movie is about a literal whale.
No, I want to believe that it's an almost Cronenbergian movie where Brendan Fraser keeps getting so big, but it's because his body's morphing into an actual humpback whale.
I liked it better when it was just like as though you thought this movie was just like Pixar style, just Brendan Fraser voicing a happy cartoon whale, and then leaving the theater like 2 hours later, going, "Well, that was unexpected."
I mean, honestly, in some ways, I wish it was that, just because, God, I don't want to hear about the discourse anymore. I don't want to hear the discourse. We get it. You whatever. I don't care.
All right, Tom, give us your rankings. I didn't mean to interrupt.
All right, so no, it's fine. So my rankings for supporting actress are Stephanie Sue for Everything Everywhere, Jamie Lee Curtis for Everything Everywhere, Angela Bassett for Black Panther, and Kerry Condon for Banshees of Inisherin. Basically, what I'm going to do is I'm keeping Kerry Condon and I'm wiping out the board. I'm putting in Sigourney Weaver for Avatar. I'm putting in Claire Foy for Women Talking. I'm putting Jessie Buckley for Women Talking. And I'm being a saucy little boy today. Anya Taylor-Joy in The Northman. I don't give a fuck. I just don't care. I don't give a fuck. Get out of my way, Angela Bassett.
My ranking is number 5. I was already saying to Tom and lamenting this. This is such a weird category because it's look, no one could agree on Best Supporting Actress this year. And I'm not saying awards always need to have a consensus choice, but like no matter who's won, it's always been with a shrug of like, yeah, I guess. Like this whole year, it was like Keke Palmer in Nope, I guess, even though she's a lead. And then later, like Angela Bassett, I guess. Jamie Lee Curtis, I guess. Kerry Condon, I guess. So I say that all to say I don't have the strongest feelings about any of these this year. But number 5, Hong Chow for The Whale. Number 4, Angela Bassett, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. Number 3, Kerry Condon, The Banshees of Inisherin. Number 2, Jamie Lee Curtis, Everything Everywhere All at Once. And number 1, Stephanie Hsu, Everything Everywhere All at Once. If I'm swapping things out, I would swap out Hong Chow, but I'm swapping her out for Michelle McLeod from Women Talking. Not getting enough praise for that movie. She's terrific in it. And I swap out Angela Bassett for Lashana Lynch in The Woman King. And also, if I'm kicking one more out, it would be to toss out Kerry Condon to put Michelle Williams in the category that she should be in and should be winning. Because if Michelle Williams was in supporting actress, there would be a consensus choice all year. But because she's in lead, no one knows what to do. So, anyway, that's supporting actress from me.
And up next is Best Supporting Actor. Tough one.
That's you.
Oh, I remember. Yeah. It was our favorite, Tom. It was one of the few times that we agreed. Well, we'll probably agree this year, too. Last year, we had the same number 1. It's the guy who makes the movie that wins Best Picture, Troy Kotsur for Coda.
Oh, right. Troy Kotsur. Yeah,
Remember,
nice. That's cool.
remember back last year around this time when we were like, man, Coda's not going to win anything, but I hope Troy Kotsur gets it. That would be a cool one win for that movie. And now, here we are. But we love Troy Kotsur. My ranking for Best Supporting Actor. My number 4 and 5 kind of oscillate, so this is where it is right now, but I keep swapping them in my head. Right now, number 5, Barry Keoghan for The Banshees of Inisherin. Number 4, Brian Tyree Henry for Causeway. Number 3, Judd Hirsch, The Fabelmans. Number 2, Brendan Gleeson, The Banshees of Inisherin. And number 1, obviously, Ke Huy Quan for Everything Everywhere All at Once. This one's tough. I probably leave this category as is. I would love to see love for Ben Whishaw in Women Talking, though, and I would also love some love for Paul Dano in The Fabelmans. So had I my druthers, maybe I drop Barry Keoghan for Ben Whishaw in Women Talking if I have to. And as for Dano, I would just swap Judd Hirsch for Paul Dano in Fabelmans. If we were running him in supporting actor, he would be the supporting actor, but I think they ran him as lead for some reason, so whatever. That's where I'm at with supporting actor. Tom?
All right, so mine is Brian Tyree Henry in Causeway, Judd Hirsch in Fabelmans, Brendan Gleeson in Banshees, Barry Keoghan in Banshees, and Ke Huy Quan in Everything Everywhere. I am taking out Brian Tyree and Judd Hirsch and putting in Paul Dano for The Fabelmans, and in a double spot for me this year, Mark Rylance in Bones and All. He's amazing in it. I'm not doing a bit.
I'm not
like
doubting it. I
legit amazing.
Tom, I need you to understand, when you pulled out Mark Rylance in the outfit, I wasn't laughing because it was a bad choice or anything like that. It was just kind of like, to put it in wrestling terms, like if they're doing a Royal Rumble or whatever, and you're like, who's going to be the last person to come out, the mystery one? And it's just a wrestler you never expected. It's just like a Danhausen pops out. You're like, I'm not mad about it at all. I just did not expect this.
Up next, Best Original Screenplay. Do you remember? Mike will remember.
Will I?
Yeah, it's a Mike movie.
I'm racking my brain to try and, because like all the movies up for Best Picture last year that are jumping to my mind would all be adapted screenplays.
There we go.
Belfast.
Ding, 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 ding.
That's it, Bron. I got his like record-breaking Oscar win for Belfast, a movie that we both liked and everybody was mad at that year for some reason. Remember that? Remember how mad people were at Belfast existing?
Yeah, because sincerity's bad now.
Yeah. Anyway, you're up first, Tom. I wonder what your number 5 is.
I wonder what I'm going to do to society today.
Oh, you were missing the
I'm going to throw such satire.
You missed the hoo-hoo-hoos.
I'm throwing satire bombs at society. Watch out, police! I'm coming for you.
Every time you do the Ruben Östlund impression, I become like Mama Bluth to Gene Parmesan. It's just pure delight. Just
All right, so original screenplay, Triangle Sadness, Shocking, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Tar, Banshees of Inisherin, and The Fabelmans. I am throwing a bomb at Triangle of Sadness, putting it out to sea, and I'm adding in The Northman.
Interesting. Okay. You would put The Northman as an original screenplay? Okay. Well,
Well, I mean, I looked it up. It's,
based on a myth,
it's
right?
I know, but that's one of the weird things
Yeah.
where it's
No,
like,
I
I
get
know
it.
it's based on a myth, so
I
it's like, what would how would they gonna categorize it, you
but
know?
you know what? Spoilers for what we're going to be talking about in the next category, but I put it in a different spot. Yeah, okay. Cool. This is one of those things that like we're laughing about, and I realize like no human being gives a shit about whether the Northman should be original or adapted. But we're like, oh yeah, okay. My rankings: number 5, Triangle of Sadness; number 4, The Fabelmans; number 3, Everything Everywhere All at Once; number 2, The Banshees of Inisherin; and number 1, Tar. I would swap out Triangle of Sadness for After Sun. Again, just exceptional writing, exceptional film. The thing about it, it's tough, is there were a lot of original screenplays I liked this year. I would love to have seen something like Decision to Leave get a nomination, or Nope get a nomination. But the fact of the matter is, if my number 4 is The Fabelmans, you got to crack The Fabelmans ceiling to get to this category, and not a lot of scripts could do that. So there are other movies I would love to have seen get recognition, but those are where I put them. I would just swap in After Sun.
They can't handle that cush.
Up next, best adapted screenplay. What do you think won?
Tom, do you remember?
No.
Why, of course, best adapted screenplay went to a script that you on our last year's episode referred to as, if you gave a bunch of monkeys typewriters, told them figure something out, and then gave it to a deaf person to check to make sure that it was sensitive. That's right. Coda won best adapted screenplay last year. Right? Kyle, am I wrong? I think it won adapted, right?
Oh, he's right. Sorry, I'm just too busy
Yeah,
laughing at
that
Tom.
was
Like,
that was
yeah, I did say that. Yeah.
that was the
I
moment.
forgot. That's good.
That
That's a
was
good bit.
Coda winning best adapted screenplay last year was and I again, we liked the movie, but that was the inverse of when Parasite picked up the screenplay Oscar in 2019. Parasite got its screenplay Oscar, and we started going, "Oh my god, is this going to happen? Is this going to happen?" And Coda won screenplay, and we went, "Oh, is this going to happen? Is this? Oh, okay, okay. You won it over West Side Story. West Side Story wasn't nominated. Power of the Dog. Anyway, so my ranking for adapted screenplay: number 5, Top Gun Maverick. What are we doing, people? Number 4, All Quiet on the Western Front. Number 3, Glass Onion: A Knives Out Mystery. Number 2, Living, and number 1, with a bullet, Women Talking. I would swap out the bottom 3. So I'm taking out Maverick, I'm taking out All Quiet on the Western Front, I'm taking out Glass Onion, and I am putting in Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, and The Northman, because it's based on a myth, so I put it in adapted. And you know what? You're goddamn right I'm putting 2 animated films in adapted screenplay, because both of those animated films do some really heavy and deep shit in their scripts. So,
Alrighty. Like I said, haven't seen Living, so my 4 are All Quiet on the Western Front, Top Gun, Women Talking, and Glass Onion. I'm taking out All Quiet on the Western Front and Living for daring to touch Akira Kurosawa. Go fuck yourself. And I'm putting in 3,000 Years of Longing and Avatar: The Way of Water.
for some reason, like, that our thing, Tom, that our thing is to not drag films you haven't seen. And yet the weird thing is you're only doing that for the movie Living. You're not doing that for any other one, but you just decided you have it out for this very quaint and very well done Bill Nye.
No, no, it's, you know what? I know, because I know I'm gonna like it. It's a good
You are
script. It's a
gonna
good,
like it.
it's just a good thing. It's a good thing to do, but also don't touch Kurosawa unless you're Steve McQueen in a cowboy boot or Clint Eastwood in a cowboy boot. Don't touch Kurosawa. But I'm just being a jerk. It's fine. That's just my thing. Cause I like to throw bombs at society.
I'm so concerned that Ruben Östlund is going to start making a comeback in many episodes this season of the podcast. People are going to know which episodes got recorded before or after, because they're going to listen to, like, Gigi, and Ruben Östlund's going to make an appearance.
Oh, if only I could just bury Ruben Östlund deeper than Shelley Miscavige.
Kyle, what's next?
Yes, documentary, not about
Okay.
Scientology.
So we're entering the stretch where Tom has nothing. We're just entering the stretch
Yeah,
where Mike
I didn't
just
watch any of these.
I'll level
Okay.
with you.
Yeah.
I expect Mike to get the rest of this because these are very low balls up to this point. So
Okay. So, Kyle, you were best documentary. Now, this is tough, though. I'm not remembering the categories. Best documentary last year?
yeah, I think we would both agree on this one, even though I still haven't gone out of my way to see it. But out of that list,
Am I going to be mad that I don't remember this?
yeah,
Do I really like this film?
I think you do.
Do I?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you do. I would be surprised why I would be surprised why you didn't. At the very least, you think it's mid, but I think you very much enjoyed this movie, from what I remember.
Okay. What was it last year? I don't remember.
It was Summer of Soul.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah, of course. That's right. Questlove, what a fuck. Do you know why I don't remember? Because last year they didn't broadcast the categories. Yeah. Last year they didn't broadcast any of the shorts categories or documentary because they had to make sure we saw that Flash Enters the Speed Force won Best Fan Favorite Moment.
Yep.
You guys remember that?
Hell yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Hell yeah. He really entered that Speed Force, baby.
Tom, again, you don't remember our episode last year, but we were trying to rank the fan favorite moments, and halfway through it, you just go, and then I guess I'd put Spider-Man. This is so fucking stupid. I'm not doing this. You stop midway through.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm really good at the bits. I'm saying, yeah, I'm actually enjoying this.
All right, best documentary. My number 5, A House Made of Splinters. Number 4, and I'm shocked this is number 4 considering I heard such positive things. But it's just a strong year. Number 4, All the Beauty and the Bloodshed. Number 3, All That Breathes. Number 2, Navalny, and number 1, Fire of Love. Almost always, like, you can, folks who haven't seen any of these, All That Breathes and Navalny are both sitting on HBO Max. Fire of Love is on Disney Plus. Seek them out. I would only swap out one of these. I would replace House Made of Splinters with Retrograde, which is a really great documentary about our abrupt withdrawal from Afghanistan and the downfall that came afterward. There's also a terrific documentary called The Janes this year that I wish had gotten more love. But those are my rankings documentaries. Tom hasn't seen any of them, but also his favorite of them is All That Breathes. Not because it's about rescuing birds, but because for 5 minutes, we get to see 2 men working at this bird rescue facility discuss the 1996 Hell in a Cell match between Undertaker and Mankind. And it's one of the funniest things.
It better win. It better win.
I'm telling you, the camera just pans over, and it's these 2 guys just being just going, yeah, he threw him through the top of the cage. Kyle?
Best documentary short. Another Mike pick, by the way.
Was this the Queen of Basketball year?
Sure was.
There we go. Speaking of which, basketball's going to come up in my swaps. Number 5, Stranger at the Gate. People are very mad at this documentary. It's a weird choice. Stranger at the Gate, if you haven't seen, is about a guy who was going to commit a domestic terror attack against a mosque until the people in the mosque showed him kindness and he converted. But it's all framed around what a great guy he's turned out to be after plotting a murder. Framing's weird on this one. Odd choices made. Number 4, How Do You Measure a Year? This is another Jay Rosenblatt film, like the guy who made the film about When We Were Bullies last year. So some people in the Academy really want to give Jay Rosenblatt an Oscar. I like this a little better than When We Were Bullies, but guy's just not my tempo. Number 3, The Martha Mitchell Effect. Number 2, Elephant Whisperers, which was almost my number 1, but number 1, Haul Out. A really impressive wordless documentary. I recommend folks check it out. I'm swapping out 2 in this case. I'm taking out Stranger at the Gate for 38 at the Garden, documentary about Jeremy Lin. And I'm swapping out How Do You Measure a Year for a documentary called Nuisance Bear, about a polar bear that's just kind of wandering around a town. So those are my documentary short picks.
Now, did he do any cocaine?
This bear? No. In fact, spoilers for the documentary. The question it asks is the bear the nuisance, or are we the nuisance in the bear's environment?
Surprise! I've got you again! Society is at risk.
Did you just give him a little Bugs Bunny kind of lisp there at the end? Society is at whisk? Or like an Elmer Fudd thing? Did you just give him?
I just ran out of breath. I'm a smoker.
Listen, I'm okay if he's got an Elmer Fudd voice. I'm not arguing with it.
No, I'm not dignified. How dare you put Ruben Östlund in the same category as that genuine stud, Elmer Fudd?
Are you an Elmer? I would have taken you as more of a Yosemite Sam man than an Elmer Fudd guy.
Hey, hey, listen, inside every man there's two wolves. And they're both dipshit cartoon characters that use guns.
Kyle, what's next?
There we go. That's our tagline for season 3. Next up is best live action short.
Oh Christ. Um,
Another Mike pick.
is it? Because
Yeah.
this, I have to say, like the last couple of years, I feel like of all the categories, like live action short has been one that, like, year after year, there's been at least a couple of bad ones
Yep.
in the nominees, and some of them have ended up winning. Two Distant Strangers was like 2 years ago.
Yeah, it's not that.
I remember that one. Fuck was last year's, Kyle?
It was The Long Goodbye.
Oh, the Riz Ahmed thing.
Yep.
Right. I think that was, yeah, I liked that one. There was one I liked more last year. Alakachu I really liked. I wish that had won, but Riz Ahmed's got an Oscar. That's cool. I'm cool with that. Hey, remember how everybody online got mad when they found out that Taylor Swift's All Too Well 10-minute thing was eligible for an Oscar, and they were like, oh, it would ruin the category if she won, which, number one, Riz Ahmed won last year for a music video, so fuck off. And number two, I don't even love Taylor Swift's All Too Well video. Better than 3 out of the 5 nominees, and better than a lot of the shortlisted films. Some of the shortlisted films this year were dreadful. But as for these, of the nominees, number 5, Night Ride. Number 4, Evalu. Number 3, An Irish Goodbye. Number 2, Les Pupilles. And number 1, The Red Suitcase. Of those, I can tell you, Les Pupilles on Disney Plus. You can watch it. It's solid. It's fun. The Red Suitcase is a legitimately good thriller. You would actually, Tom, you would like this one. You know what it reminded me of? Do you remember that one? We watched it years ago. That short nominee that was really good about the woman in the department store trying to elude her abusive husband, and it was just like super
Oh
tense about
yeah.
her. That was
Oh
terrific.
yeah.
This is just like that. The Red Suitcase. If folks get a chance to check it out, it's about a young woman traveling to, I want to say, France with her red suitcase from some Middle Eastern country. I don't remember what, to meet the much older man that her father has sold her to be married. And instead, in the airport, she decides to escape and seek her freedom. And it is so tense and it is so well done. So I really hope that wins because it's terrific and ahead above the rest. If I could, I would swap out Night Ride for a short that was shortlisted called The Lone Wolf, which, were that in the category, should win it all. The Lone Wolf is, if folks want to check it out, Tom, I'm going to try and Kyle, I'll send you guys the video file. Y'all should check this one out. It is essentially, it's all done in one take, and it's a talk radio host who gets a specific call in the middle of the conversation, and it just becomes the tensest thing you've ever seen, all in a radio station in a single shot. It's really, really good. So I'd swap out Night Ride for The Lone Wolf, swap out Ivalu for a short called Tula, which was really, really good, and swap out An Irish Goodbye for one called Warshaw, these were all shortlisted shorts. So folks should check those out.
Best animated short is next. You might not know this one.
Wait, I might not know. Oh, what, won last year?
Right.
Probably not. No, I feel like I should. I pay attention to that category, but I just don't remember.
It was The Windshield Wiper.
Oh, yeah, that one was okay. It's fine. Okay.
Ho, calm down, Mike.
Yeah,
Jesus.
This year, number 5, The Flying Sailor. Number 4, My Year of Dicks. Number 3, An Ostrich Told Me the World is Fake, and I Think I Believe It. Number 2, The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. And number 1, Ice Merchants. I have no swaps. I think these are all solid. I really do. I think these are some really good shorts, and I watched a number of the other shortlisted animated shorts. None of them could crack this 5. If folks get the chance, check these out. The Ice Merchants is deeply moving and really good wordless animated short. And An Ostrich Told Me the World is Fake, and I Think I Believe It is much more clever than it has any right to be. So those are my animated short picks. I'm not swapping anything out. They're a hoot.
Cool, moving on. Best animated feature. I'm gonna have Tom answer this one, actually. What won last year,
For
Tom?
what one last year?
Yeah, best animated feature. What won, Tom?
What one?
I know you know this one. Come on. It's the free bingo space, baby. Think of one animated movie that came out last year and just say it.
Well, it would have had to come out 2 years ago. Fuck, I don't know. Uh,
Even better.
I don't.
What was what took
Even
what
better.
took
That makes it worse for
what
me.
took the fuck over like at the end of 2021 because nobody was actually seeing it in theaters?
Oh, and Kanto.
There it is.
Oh. So I didn't get a chance to see Marcel or Puss in Boots. Much to Mike's
Strike
chagrin.
1 and 2 on this part. Your opinion on this matter is invalid now, Tom. Sorry.
But I'm gonna put the ranking at Sea Beast, Turning Red, and Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, which I mean, good God, that movie is just a fucking hell of a picture. Just to be a jerk again, I'm knocking out Marcel the Shell, and I'm putting in Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe.
Jesus, God, you suck. All right, all right, all right. Number 5 for me, The Sea Beast. Number 4, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. Number 3, Turning Red. Number 2, and I am shocked that I put this here because I did not have high hopes. Number 2, Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. And number 1, the best movie of the year, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish.
We took second.
You.
If I could, I'm swapping out the Sea Beast for Mad God.
Oh fuck yeah! Okay, bye bye Puss in Boots. Mad God's in there now. No, you know what? I'll take out Sea Beast for Mad God.
Yeah.
I'll leave that good cat in there.
Oh, Tom,
He's a good
when
kitty.
you get to Puss in Boots, it's gonna delight you. All right.
Next up, best international feature. Mike, you know it.
I like that you're just throwing it to me. I know it, but does Tom remember?
I know. Nah, listen, I gave it to Tom last time, and also because I knew you would remember this one, so I don't think Tom will remember.
Do you remember what won international last year, Tom?
No.
Well, it's only because it was up for picture too. It's Drive My Car.
Yeah.
Oh, Drive My Car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh well, did you see? I forget what it was. What movie it was?
Did the movie end yet?
What movie it was? She tweeted about, but oh my god. You must remember this host. Why am I forgetting her name now?
Karina Longworth.
Karina Longworth. I forget what movie she said it about, but she tweeted out. She went, "Is this movie actually good, or is it Drive My Car good?" And I love Drive My Car, but I was like, what a good slam.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. All right, hold on. I'm looking this up. I need to see what she's burning. Because I'm just going to, listen, I'll just get it out of the way. I only saw All Quiet on the Western Front of the nominees, and I liked it. I don't know what's the worst movie there. You tell me. I don't know. Swap that out for Athena. That movie's a fucking masterpiece.
Not submitted by its country, weirdly.
Assholes. Assholes.
Listen.
Assholes!
That's why I'm not... because I'm trying to hold my swaps to like what was submitted by the country. Otherwise, I'd be talking RRR a lot in this. But best international feature, we were very close to All Quiet on the Western Front being the lowest ranked of these, which is weird because it's up for best picture. My number 5 is Close, which is a movie I like for half of its runtime. If anybody's seen it, they'll know what I'm talking about. For half of its runtime, I'm like, what a great movie. And then it makes a choice halfway through, and then the movie is not nearly as good. So that's the only reason it ranks lower. Number 4, All Quiet on the Western Front. Number 3, The Quiet Girl. Number 2, Argentina 1985. Folks, it's on Amazon Prime. If you haven't seen it, seek out Argentina 1985. You can even find a dubbed version on there. Really check it out. As soon as I saw it, I told Tom he's got to check it out. It's a great film. But my number 1 will shock no one who knows my taste in film. My number 1 is EO. Great film. Beautiful donkey. Wonderful film. Should win the Oscar.
You get to find out how he became a captain.
Wow! Tom drops the Disney theme park joke before I get to it. I'm impressed. If I'm swapping one out, which I am, I'm swapping out Close for the most egregious of snubs, which is Decision to Leave, a movie everyone expected to be in this category, and I am shocked it's not. Park Chan-wook getting real screwed on that one. But yeah, otherwise I leave them all there. I didn't get to see I didn't get to see a lot of the foreign language submissions, so maybe I would have felt differently if I was able to get to see something like a Holy Spider or a Saint Omer. I'm hoping to get to Saint Omer soon, so maybe I'll retract this. Um, but as of now, that's where it stands because I'm sure as shit not swapping Bardo in there. Anyway, that's me on international film.
Up next, best costume design. Do you think you know?
Uh,
Do you think you can remember,
I
Nick?
I'm just remembering what won a lot this year. Did that go to fucking Dune? I
No.
feel like Dune won a
No,
lot of
no,
shit last
no,
year.
don't worry. We're getting to our Dune sweep in a bit here.
Oh my god. Costume design. Hmm. Oh! Cruella, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was a good call. That was
Boo!
Tommy, you
Boo!
it is your number one in that category.
My hands were tied.
You literally, when you do it, you're like, am I number one? Cruella. I didn't like the fucking movie, but I gotta give it that.
Yeah, but still, boo.
Okay. Tom, costume design.
Okay, hold on. Let me get my thing here. Okay, so I didn't see Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris. That's the one I didn't
Good
see.
movie.
So I have for Everything Everywhere, Babylon, Elvis, and Black Panther. Um, I'm basically wiping the board, just wiping the board clean. I'm putting in The Northman, The Batman, 3,000 Years of Longing, and Pearl. She's a good old girl. Ain't she that Pearl?
My number 5 is Babylon. My number 4 is Elvis. My number 3, Black Panther Wakanda Forever. My number 2, Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris. My number 1, Everything Everywhere All at Once. Look, I'm weird with this costume category. Oftentimes I tend to favor costumes that have to be made up whole cloth rather than costumes that can be based on history. That's why something like Elvis or Babylon ranks so low, because at a certain point you can just look at pictures and replicate it. I thought Black Panther Wakanda Forever was fine. I mean, it was building on what it had done previously, which absolutely deserved the Oscar. This, sure. But I do have to say, Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris is really impressive for the fact that it really does use its dresses and its designs to tell a story, and it has to do something that I think that the impressive feat that it pulls off is it has to be able to design a dress that will not only fit Mrs. Harris well, but will make sense as a Dior dress from this high-end fashion house that will also impress sleazy drunken gambler Jason Isaacs. So, they did a hell of a job with that. But my number 1, Everything Everywhere All at Once, because just the amount of costumes it had to do for all of these different characters that had to make sense for multiverse versions of all of these people and fit. Just an incredible job. All the same, I don't feel strongly about costumes in any other film to swap them out, so I'm going to leave this category as it is.
Best makeup and hairstyling.
Did that go to Eyes of Tammy Faye?
It did. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
What a stupid win.
So my number 5, Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Number 4, All Quiet on the Western Front. Number 3, Elvis. Number 2, The Batman. And number 1, The Whale. It was really tough choosing between The Batman and The Whale because there's that work they did on Colin Farrell and the work they did on Brendan Fraser. It can be argued. I could see somebody arguing that, well, Brendan Fraser looks more cartoonishly large and there's a little more naturalism to Colin Farrell, and I won't begrudge them that. But I do think that while I don't love the movie The Whale very much at all, I do think that the cartoonishly monstrous is kind of the point in that film. So that's what gives it the edge. Anyway, I would swap out Black Panther for The Northman.
Makeup and hair. So I haven't seen The Whale. So my 4 are Elvis, Black Panther, All Quiet on the Western Front, and The Batman. I would be swapping out Elvis, Black Panther, and All Quiet, because even without having seen The Whale, you just have to see what Brendan Fraser looks like. And also, just for the discourse thing, there's like fucking reality shows and shit on like TLC or whatever, where it's like, oh, 1,000-pound sisters, and it's like, you get that heavy. That's what you look like. I'm sorry, like, you don't get to be 600 pounds and look like fucking Sylvester Stallone. It doesn't happen unless you're 12 feet tall. It's not gonna happen. So Elvis, Black Panther, and All Quiet, bye. I'm putting in 3,000 Years of Longing, The Northman, and Halloween Ends. Honestly, listen, The work that they do with the makeup and effects on that fucking Halloween, that's Tom
I'm not
Savini level
stopping you.
shit they do in that
I'm not
movie.
arguing.
No,
No one's arguing.
no, I know. I'm just saying, like, I feel like it's weird that nobody gives Christopher Nelson like his like love the way they gave Savini, because fuck, he does good work.
But you know what you are going to argue about? Who
Oh
won
god,
Best Original Song last year?
I don't
Oh,
fucking know.
it's song. Okay.
Yeah,
Song last year.
I moved things up. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Best original song last year. Oh, I know what it was. It should have gone to Beyonce for "Be Alive" from King Richard, but instead it went to one of the most boring Bond songs of all time. It went to Billie Eilish for "No Time to Die."
Wow, that's right. Wow, time means nothing. I forgot. Like 2
Yeah,
years ago, it
yeah.
feels like 5 years ago.
Well, I
And
mean, because
if
it dropped, I think, in 2020, right? So it just literally was just in
yeah,
like award season limbo for 2 or 3 years.
and we couldn't remember the melody a week after it dropped, and yet it won the Oscar.
I couldn't remember it the second the movie started.
And so if that's the case, if last year's best original song winner was a case of a song that is made by a pop star that immediately doesn't exist after we hear it, but everybody around us maintains is super memorable and super good, then if tradition holds, then Lady Gaga, congrats on your Oscar this year for the Top Gun Maverick song that doesn't exist. But I will say this category not good this year. It's rough this year. Gun to my head, if you said hum the melody to the 5 nominees, I'd be able to get one down before they pulled the trigger. Number 5, Applause from Tell It Like a Woman. The movie barely exists. We already gave Diane Warren an Oscar last year as like a career thing, so we thought we wouldn't have to keep nominating her, but we did. Song is not good. Number 4, Hold My Hand from Top Gun Maverick. I'm not the biggest Top Gun fan, but the one thing I will not let people tell me is that that song is memorable or integral to the film. You people are out of your minds. Number 3, This Is a Life from Everything Everywhere All at Once, a movie I watched twice and don't remember the song. Number 2, Lift Me Up from Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Good enough. And number 1, the deserving winner, Natu Natu from RRR. Exceptional musical number, great song, catchy melody, and the only song that really kind of factors into its film in any way. That said, I was looking at the short list, and there weren't any shortlisted songs that I would swap in because they were all kind of fine. 2 songs that were not on the short list, but I do think should have been recognized. The Sunny Side of Summer from the Bob's Burgers movie should be in there, and also Fearless Hero from Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Tom?
So I've been told that I've heard 3 of these songs, but I think people are lying to me, because I've seen Top Gun Maverick, Black Panther, and Everything Everywhere All at Once, but these songs aren't in them. I don't know what people are trying to do here. So I'm just gonna rank the movies and say Black Panther, Everything Everywhere, and Top Gun. I don't know. These songs don't exist in any tangible reality.
This is the fun thing, folks. Tom and I maybe vehemently disagree on a lot of the Top Gun Maverick discourse, but the one time we're on the same side is when anybody tries to tell us, and that Lady Gaga song is incredible. It's the one time
Shut
we'll
up.
get on the same side. What are
Ridiculous.
you talking about?
That's ridiculous. Anytime anybody does that, I'm gonna slap you in the mouth. Shut up. Stop. Enough.
What would Phil do if when we're on his podcast, you
I
just
threaten to slap him in the mouth.
But like, you guys are on the same page coming at me for like, why don't you like Joy and the 80s? And then all of a sudden Phil goes, and that Lady Gaga song, and you just stone-faced go, I'm gonna slap you in the mouth.
I'm definitely doing it. I'm 100% threatening Philip Iskov over the internet.
What's next, Kyle?
Best sound, which I conveniently put next.
Is Dune one?
Yeah, basically Dune wins everything from here on out. So
Dune won all the technical categories.
All right, Elvis, The Batman, All Quiet on the Western Front, Avatar, and Top Gun. Taking out Elvis, putting in the Northman.
Number 5, All Quiet on the Western Front. Number 4, Avatar: The Way of Water. Number 3, The Batman. Number 2, Elvis. Number 1, Top Gun Maverick. I have no swaps. I have no strong feelings on this category. Top Gun's probably going to win this because they flew planes and this plane sounded like planes. So, good. Give it to it. I got no problem.
Best original score.
Tom, remember last year when you had a movie that you hated vehemently in the form of Cruella, and you were like, "Look, I can't argue that the costumes are bad. Like it's good. I have to give it the number one spot."
Yeah.
It's my turn to do that for a movie I don't care for this year. Best original score, number 5, All Quiet on the Western Front. I legit, I don't like that score. I think that score distracts from the movie. Number 4, The Banshees of Inisherin. I like it, but it's kind of repetitive. Number 3, Everything Everywhere All at Once. Number 2, The Fabelmans. And somehow my number 1 score of the year, it's a good score for a bad movie. My number 1 is Babylon. I've been listening to that score a lot. I like the score. I wish I liked the film that it played under. I would swap out All Quiet for The Batman, and I would swap out The Banshees of Inisherin for Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, because I think you should swap out Bum 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 for Bum 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 Bum. That's my thoughts here. That's my take, folks. Tom? Oh, Dune won
Okay.
score, right, Kyle?
Dune literally wins everything from here on out, so.
Best movie ever made, except it's not a movie, it's half a movie. Go fuck yourself, Twitter. Score for me is Everything Everywhere, Babylon, Banshees, All Quiet on the Western Front, The Fabelmans. I'm taking out Everything Everywhere, Babylon, and Banshees, and I'm putting in The Northman, The Batman, and Halloween Ends.
Best production design.
Okay. Tom, you're first.
Well, Dune won,
Yeah,
so
Dune.
I guess we're
Dune
Babylon, Elvis, All Quiet on the Western Front, The Fabelmans, and Avatar. I'm taking out Babylon and Elvis, and I'm putting in the Batman and the Northman.
Okay, for me, number 5, The Fabelmans. I'm sorry, I love The Fabelmans, but yes, you recreated the 50s. Number 4, Elvis. Again, like the movie, but had things to go off of. Number 3, All Quiet on the Western Front. Number 2, Babylon. Number 1, Avatar, The Way of Water. I would swap out The Fabelmans for The Northman, and I would swap out Elvis for Nope. I can't help it. The little the Stephen Yeun's little ranch, great look, great vibes. That's my production design.
Oh, they just went to a ranch and looked at a ranch. Nye, nye, nye. That's you, asshole.
Best editing.
My number 5, The Banshees of Inisherin. Number 4, Elvis. Number 3, Tar. Number 2, Top Gun Maverick. Number 1, Everything Everywhere All at Once. And I would swap out The Banshees of Inisherin for After Sun.
Okay. Banshees of Inisherin, Tar, Everything Everywhere, Elvis, and Top Gun Maverick. I'm taking out Banshees of Inisherin, and I'm putting in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Best cinematography.
The stupidest
baby.
category. The stupidest
insane.
category.
Do I go first? That's right.
Yeah,
I go first.
Go first.
All right. Well, I'm just letting everybody know, swapping everything out. But
despite the fact that you have not seen Empire of Light or Bardo, I'm assuming
because nobody needs to. Oh, great! Roger Deakins lit a movie for Sam Mendes that nobody likes. Awesome, great. Let's nominate it. And Inarritu made a movie that's just jerking himself off for 3 hours. How profound. All right, so it's Elvis, Tar, All Quiet on the Western Front. That's my ranking. Wiping the whole board clean, motherfuckers. All right, we're putting in The Northman. We're putting in The Batman. We're putting in Athena. We're putting in 3,000 Years of Longing. And we're putting in Top Gun Maverick. Guys, what the hell were you thinking?
So mine, number 5, Empire of Light. Number 4, All Quiet on the Western Front. Number 3, Elvis. Number 2, and I'm shocked I'm doing this, but number 2, Bardo. Didn't love the movie. Cinematography was very good. And number 1, Tar. I would swap out Empire of Light for The Batman, and I would take out All Quiet on the Western Front for Top Gun Maverick, because like Tom said, guys, what are we doing? Nothing made me feel more gaslit about the Top Gun Maverick phenomenon than when people were reacting to it not getting the cinematography nomination, the thing it most deserved, and it got a screenplay nomination, and I had to see people on Twitter go, yeah, no, that makes sense, actually. No, it doesn't. It does not. What are we doing here? Anyway, Kyle?
And last but certainly not least, best visual effects.
Okay. My number 5 was Black Panther Wakanda Forever. My number 4, All Quiet on the Western Front. Number 3, The Batman. Number 2, Top Gun Maverick. Number 1, Avatar The Way of Water. What?
It's literally the exact as mine.
Okay, I was going to say, if you... I understand Top Gun Maverick. If you were going to sit here and try and tell me, like, that deserves it over Avatar, you're right. No, we're not doing that. Okay.
No, I was like, at a certain point, I was like, wait,
Yeah.
Okay, no,
Because the only one that's bad is I think some of the effects in Wakanda Forever are bad. I think that movie looks bad at points.
Really bad.
The problem that I faced with that was I was like, well, that's obviously getting swapped out. What do I swap it out for? And I'm looking at the short list of visual effects nominees and going, I'm not putting in Jurassic World Dominion. Like, for a little while, I was like, I guess you put in Doctor Strange, but even then, like, so that's why I'm swapping in Nope, because I watched Nope today and I was like, cool, that's better than Black Panther, so that goes in as my 5th visual effects slot. Now, mind you, I did not see there are 2 other films shortlisted visual effects that I didn't see, which were 13 Lives and also Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore. But I'm going to take a shot in the dark and say the effects in Fantastic Beasts 3 probably not the best. Anyway.
The secret is he hates trans people. Yeah, so we have the same ranking there. I don't care about shortlisting. Obviously, I'm a wild card. Taking out Black Panther because, wow, did the effects in that look bad. And I'm putting in The Northman.
And with that, and without any further ado, that is our Oscar special for this year for the 95th Academy Awards. Guys, if you've never listened to the show before, weird that you chose this one to listen to, but most times we are going through the films of the Library of Congress's National Film Registry. Our first 2 seasons can be found in our podcast feed, and we have our 3rd season coming out soon, and we are so thrilled. And until then, folks, hopefully nobody gets hit in the face at the Oscars this year. See you guys.
What are you talking about? Michelle Yeoh's throwing punches this year.
You know they're gonna fucking do
It's
some
gonna be so
stupid
annoying.
skit.
It's gonna be so annoying.
Just
Who's gonna present Best Actress
What?
this year? It's usually the winner, but Will is banned, so who's gonna present it?
Should be Martin Lawrence.
It's me. Thank you to everyone who supported the show over the last few years, and to any new listeners we've had along the way. We're excited to share that Season 3 of You're Missing Out will be premiering on April 6th. Don't forget to follow the show wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us on Good Pods and Substack. Until then, thanks again for listening, and we'll see you again next time.